Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Have a later stream tonight, clearly, 11 o'clock here. But there are a couple things to go over. I was kind of tired today, so I've been a little bit behind. But we have a Brian Entin video to go over, and we're going to go over a Tony Bruski video as well. The first one, Brian Entin talks to Steve, the former FBI agent, Steve Moore, I believe his name is, and they go over the little bit of frustration that the FBI seems to have with local law enforcement, which really means what? They're fed up with Sheriff Nanos because Sheriff Nanos, he didn't send the hair sample to their lab 2 months ago. There was no reason for that, but he didn't. Who was in charge of it? Sheriff Nanos was in charge of it. And the FBI, they said so. They said, yeah, we wanted him to do this 2 months ago, but he didn't. And that, along with opening up the crime scene too soon, there's been a few things that Sheriff Nanos seems to have blundered. And a lot of it is because of that grudge that he had against the FBI. And I'm going to do a video, I think, tomorrow about, and it might be a recorded video, but the reason that I believe Sheriff Nanos is narcissistic. Hello there, Chatty and Mavs and D. You can say hello to Mavs' husband as well, because he'll say, Mavs, who you watching? And he'll be like, who? Shadow and who? Shadow and Jared, what? Hello there, Demi, how are you? Please remember to like the video on the way in here. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your DNA of choice in the like button. Throw Shadow a like vest, the way Brian Hooker should have to Lynette Hooker. Say hello to Black Sheep Nation, the flock of black sheep in the live chat. And as always, super chats, super stickers, and becoming a channel member or gifting channel memberships, great way to support the channel. Hello there, Danielle. How are you? Sunny days. What's shaking? Apologetic. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Hello there, Montana. That's funny, Mavs. Tell them we got the best group around. Jared and Shadow. Just saying. JS. Jared and Shadow. Hello there, Tina. Welcome. Hello there, Bethany. I'm officially like number 4. Oh, 4 in the chat. I'm glad you're doing good. How was your day today, Bethany? I know Jackie says she has to figure out if she needed surgery today, so we'll see if she pops in here too. And usually, folks, I go live earlier than this. I was just sluggish and behind today. Hello there, Ellen. How are you? You know how some days it just seems like you don't wake up until later in the day? Well, that was me today. Ah, okay. Very good, Danielle. Shadow and I appreciate it. I'm a little disappointed, Danielle, that the Lords of YouTube Random didn't give you a membership. I don't know who got the ones that Laura gave out yesterday. I think Tina might have gotten one, but I don't know who the other 4 were. Hello there, Ruth. How are you? I was also, Laura will be proud of me. I was looking into the Discord stuff today. I'm trying to figure that out. Mav says, I took a 2-hour nap during my 1-hour lunch break. Oh, that's funny. Gave me a chuckle. Bethany says, amazing. I finally finished cleaning my entire room the last 2 days. Bethany, the youngest person in the chat, by the way. Youngest person in the chat, not even in their 20s. Late 30s is the youngest in the chat. Hello there, Hot Tea. How are you? Well, I came around. I gave myself a fruit smoothie as a treat today, Danielle. Strawberry, pineapple, and dragon fruit with a little bit of yogurt. And there was some high fructose corn syrup in there. I'm not used to that. Hello there, Popcorn. Shadow and I say hello. Mizzou Tigers. Go, Sheriff, go. FBI is a joke. Now that's an interesting take. Explain why you think that. I agree, Jared, today might be my lucky day. I like your way of thinking, Danielle. Think it into existence. Manifest. Sweet Caroline, welcome. Thank you again today for the super thanks on those videos. Shadow and I are very grateful. That helped me pay for some Hootie snacks for Shadow. Tina says, I've been going through rheumatoid arthritis for over 20 years, been having bad flare-ups, asking for prayers. All right, you heard her, Black Sheep Nation, flock of black sheep. Send some good vibes Tina's way for her rheumatoid arthritis flare-ups. Jackie, how are you? What's the news for you today, Jackie? About surgery, etc. Shadow is the person next to me here, Shadow the Night Owl. He's the mascot / spirit animal of the channel. Yeah, let's see what Jackie says before I play this Brian Entin video. Well, I guess some of the criticism the FBI can get, people don't like Kash Patel, right? And depending on the case, right? That's an interesting thing, too. Depending on the case, people like the FBI in the Nancy Guthrie case, but people do not like the FBI in the Charlie Kirk case, right? Very case dependent. Hello there, Julie R. How are you? Smoothies are damn good. I agree, apologetic. Shadow's the coolest owl you know. And sometimes he communicates with Mike's owls from, where is he? In West Virginia, did he say? Not Huntington, but what? I can't remember. He'll remind me. We missed you too, Sunny Days. Where does he say? Harper's Ferry? I think that's where Mike said he's from, Harper's Ferry. So there's some Harper's Ferry owls that Shadow communicates with. Similar to how dolphins communicate via sonar, Shadow can communicate with owls in West Virginia. In Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. I endorse smoothies, Bethany. I really do. That sounds delicious, Bethany. Ah, got bad news. Surgery Thursday. Screws and steel rod. Well, Shadow and I are sorry to hear that, Jackie, but we will hope that that surgery goes smoothly, and then things go better from there. Hello there, Rooster. The party can begin now. That Rooster's here. Bethany's, I see. Yes, everyone make sure you all like the video on the way in the door. Spank that like button or leave your DNA of choice in the like button. Say hello to Black Sheep Nation in the live chat. Good group of folks here. We have a couple of videos to go over, Brian Entin and Tony Bruski today. Oh my lord, Rooster broke his own rules. 3 beers? What's the beer of choice tonight? Shadow's curious. Inquiring minds want to know. Corona? Is it a Corona night? D, what's shaking, D?
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. Really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I really appreciate all of your support. It is now day 86 since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, literally just vanished out of her home.
Yes, and all the Black Sheep Nation sends some good vibes to Jackie too for her surgery on Thursday. And hopefully it goes very smoothly.
Home in Tucson, Arizona. Still no real explanation, still no suspects. It's been almost 3 months. In this episode, I'm getting into some new information. You guys remember before Nancy Guthrie disappeared, and I've reported on this before, there was this reality show that was set to tape and had already started taping with the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Well, now there are some emails that have come out through a public records request. Fox Digital actually got them. They're just interesting because they showed the behind the scenes of the sheriff's office. They also talk about the fact that there were changes in leadership positions in homicide and also in the cold case unit, which is something that I've reported a lot about. The fact that experienced leaders were moved around by the sheriff, and a lot of people are not happy about that. And there's questions about whether that may have impacted the Nancy Guthrie investigation. So I'm going to get into that in this episode. Also, this question of whether there is one or more than one suspect involved in this. Obviously, we saw the guy on the doorbell camera, but is there someone else involved? I'm going to ask retired FBI agent Steve Moore about that. And we've heard a lot of theories that go both ways, but he has interesting theory based on evidence that he knows about that he's going to explain here. And a couple of other updates that I've learned about over the last couple of days that I'm going to get into in this episode of Brian Entin Investigates.
Hey, Steve, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me again. I always appreciate talking to you about the latest developments with the Nancy Guthrie investigation. There's still so, I was just telling my friend, I get so many emails every day. Still, even it's been months later, from people so interested in this case, and a lot of older people around Nancy's age, even, or in their 70s, who have just really been impacted by this. And, everybody wants answers, but it's just interesting. There's a whole, I think, segment of people that are really, really impacted by what happened to Nancy and are just disturbed by it. I wanted to start off asking you, though, Fox Digital obtained some emails from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. They were working with A&E. There was going to be a reality show coming out where A&E was going to be following around deputies within the sheriff's office in Pima County and getting access to them, going out on calls and that kind of thing. And it's interesting because in the emails, they were trying to obtain certain.
And that is pretty wild. SheriffNanos has this reality TV show. It just seems so inappropriate at this time, or whatever it is, reality show or / documentary. It just doesn't seem like the time or the place, considering everything that's happened. So
videos and going back and forth about body camera video and asking for interviews with heads of departments. And one of the responses back to them was the department has experienced some rotational reassignments since last year. And they basically said that the head of the cold case unit and the homicide unit had moved out. So they were having some scheduling issues, which, knowing what we know now, what we learned after what happened with Nancy Guthrie, the sheriff had moved a lot of the experienced people out of the leadership roles for political reasons, from what we can tell, people who didn't support him in the election. What do you make of the fact that this was all kind of coming to light through these emails?
And that is something I heard someone in the comments from the video yesterday said someone was going to run against SheriffNanos and what SheriffNanos did was put them on leave or something, so they couldn't run against them. Actually, I should read the comments specifically because I don't want to get it wrong. So the comment said, and they are correct with this. There it is. It's about the Lappin person. In 2015, incumbent Heather Lappin, 19-year law enforcement veteran, was running for Nanos' position. Nanos put Heather on leave of absence so that she couldn't campaign. She filed a $2 million lawsuit against Nanos. Nanos won the race as sheriff. So remember the name we were reading in that 22-page response from Nanos and his lawyer? Lieutenant Lappin and Sergeant Cross? Well, that was Lieutenant Lappin. That's what Nanos did. So it sounds like Nanos, he plays a lot of dirty pool when it comes to staying in power. And that's not even to mention the RICO case from 2016 either. For those of you who don't know that, in 2016, the FBI investigated Nanos for misappropriation of funds. Nanos blamed his chief of staff, Bradley Gagnapane, who then unalived himself. Ugh. In reality, Nanos wanted the money to open a restaurant. Nanos is evil. He went to levels of hurting another person, so that person took his own life. And that's a comment from R. Johnson on my live stream from yesterday. So, Nanos, he's out of control.
emails before we knew any of this was going to happen with Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, from my understanding, the filming, of course, happened before the murder investigation. But still, when you send them an email and they say, well, we've had rotational assignments that have taken these people, or rotational reassignments, you wonder why they had to specify that as to the reason. We just say, hey, they're no longer in that job. You know how it goes. Plus, I don't remember, at least in the FBI, rotational assignments. I mean, I suppose there are a few, but when you go into a job, you're expected to stay there as long as you and they want you to be in that position, and it's vetoable by either party.
With some of these shows, I've watched them, and it seems like some of them can be good for law enforcement. They show what it's actually like to be a cop, what it's like on the streets. You sort of sympathize more with the officers. But I don't know, there's something about this that's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. I think just since the Guthrie case is still unsolved, and you see that, the leadership in the department was taking so much time with these producers before planning out this show. There's also questions like, were they getting access to public records more quickly than regular people could have? They were just sending body camera videos back and forth, that kind of thing. What's your general opinion of shows like this?
It's a mixed bag, Brian. As you point out correctly, it gives people an idea of what law enforcement is really like, and shows them that it's not like it seems to somebody who's just looking at what they see in the news. It is sometimes terrifying. It's always demanding. And, to me, I see,
Now, Mavs, that is an interesting one. Mav's great grandma used to say, the more you worry, the less there is to worry about. Almost like reverse psychology, which made me want to worry more so it wouldn't be so bad. It's sort of like the expression, it's always the last place you look, because if it weren't the last, there'd still be more places to look. That's an interesting one, Mavs. I'm going to do some deep reflection and meditation on that one. Worry more, because then there will be less to worry about. It's almost like preparation, right? That's almost like what she's saying. Be prepared. The more you're prepared, the less things can blindside you. Something like that. That's totally understandable, Jackie. Your feelings are your feelings. And your feelings are valid. And I do think, though, you got to feel it to heal it. And in this case, if you try to stuff it too much, it probably won't go too well. So you feel your feelings and let the cards fall as they may.
Forms, the FBI has not done anything like this. And I learned more about uniformed police officers and what they have to do. So I think they're valuable there. I have always wondered how those things affect legal proceedings of the people who were arrested or detained or part of any kind of situation. I can't imagine a lawyer saying, hey, this is a good idea for the department. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. And I can tell you that the agents I spoke with during my career said that they wouldn't want to have anything to do with anything like that, because if something goes bad, God forbid something goes bad, you've done it on public record right then and there. Certainly now that there are body cams, that same thing still applies. But it's kind of like driving your car with a camera on you the whole time. It's great if not until something happens that you screwed up, and then you've really caused yourself some trouble.
And just back to the head of homicide and cold case being moved out, I can't help but wonder if the people with more experience were still in those roles, if we would be in a different place now with the Nancy Guthrie investigation.
And what could have even have gone differently? Okay, well, they don't open up the crime scene too soon. Maybe they send those hairs to the FBI's lab 2 months ago when the FBI originally wanted them to. Maybe they take that Matt into custody as well. And who knows what else they messed up besides that? We don't know. We don't know what else they messed up. Maybe they could have looked more and done more searches in the beginning. I bet you there's things we just don't know. And I've also been hearing more about that initial 911 call. It was never released. The initial 911 call has never been released. So that would be interesting to know too, what that call was all about, how that call sounded. But as of now, we don't know. So could it have gone differently? It's possible. Maybe they get more evidence from the house when they use the FBI's superior technology and superior experience. Maybe they get a better DNA sample. Maybe they get something from the hair they wanted sent 2 months ago. But now we'll never know. We'll never know now. Now, for the residents of Pima County and Tucson, it's more about moving forward. Who do you want in charge now moving forward? So, in my opinion, hopefully that recall effort works and they can get someone that the team there actually wants to be working under, as opposed to the way it is right now. Also, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Say hello to Black Sheep Nation in the live chat too.
We'd be in a different place. I can't say for sure that it would have been solved. I'll bet we would have been way farther down the road and possibly solved. It's one of those what if type things. And I think the reason, by the way, that the involvement in the show bothers some people is the reason that it kind of sticks in the back of my mind, that there's all these feelings that the sheriff is out there for his own aggrandizement and for building up his department. And this kind of plays into that narrative, whether it's true or not, it plays into that narrative.
Yeah. And again, when you see all the hundreds of emails and the time that it's taking the personnel in the sheriff's office to respond to these producers, you do just wonder, there's crime in Pima County. There's a lot of crime. Makes you wonder, like, shouldn't they be maybe focusing on that instead of like a reality show?
Yeah. I think there's positives and negatives to the show. To shows like that. And I think overall they've been a net positive. But in certain situations, they've been a significant negative in specific situations.
Are you surprised that they were so interested in this reality show based on?
The follow-up question I would have for him is then, what have been the negatives when there's been a reality TV show? What happened? What were the positives? What were the negatives?
What we saw from the sheriff. I mean, he did a lot of interviews initially. There were the press conferences. He seemed to be a fan of being on TV.
Yeah. It's very troubling when you see something like that, which indicates that the people at the top may be very much interested in media. And keep in mind, this is an elected official here. So any publicity like that would be just immensely helpful. It's also kind of, unsettling that he would be involved in that. And you get some people in law enforcement, and I suppose any other kind of situation where the media is paying attention to you, you get to like that. And when that happens, sometimes the primary responsibilities you have take a secondary role to getting your face on camera or getting positive reviews, something like that. It's disturbing when you see that. Again, these are just my impressions. But it's kind of leaving a bad taste. Well, more than kind of leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I think that there was somebody much more interested in doing things his way than the right way, and getting his face on camera.
And that sounds like a good summary of Sheriff Nanos. More concerned with doing it his way than the right way. And it's not even just true with this case. It's been true for quite some time, apparently. Ever going back to the 80s, it sounds like this has been true.
Instead of getting other people's face on mugshots.
And you and I spoke last time about, I had reported.
Oh, what do we got here, Shadow? Sweet Caroline, thank you so much for the super chat. Shadow and I really appreciate it. It's great to be here, she says. And let them know where you're from, Sweet Caroline. She's from the land down under. Australia, the land down under. So we're glad to have supporters here from maybe even more than halfway across the world. And this will help pay for Shadow the Night Owl's Hootie Snacks. So super chats always appreciated. Same with super stickers and becoming a channel member. Likes are free, and so is subscribing to the channel. So thank you again, Sweet Caroline.
That a hair has now been sent to the FBI lab, a hair that was already at the Florida lab that the Pima County Sheriff's Office uses, has now been sent for additional testing, more comprehensive testing with the FBI. And since I spoke to you, the FBI actually put out a statement about it, which I thought was kind of interesting, trying to read between the lines of what they said. They said, we're still receiving your inquiries on this. This is not new evidence or information, which I knew this isn't like a new hair they found. It's a hair that was found initially, and it's just now being sent to the FBI. It says, FBI asked to test this DNA 2 months ago with the same technology we've always had, when the local sheriff instead sent it to a private lab. Any further developments we will share as soon as appropriate. But the part where they said FBI asked to test this DNA 2 months ago, to me just showed maybe a little animosity that's still there.
Sounds like a covert jab to me, or not even so covert. We asked to do this 2 months ago, but why didn't Sheriff Nanos do it? To me, it just sounds like this is the old grudge coming back up, right? He has a grudge against the FBI for that RICO case in 2016. And I do definitely think that clouded his judgment in this entire case. And I bet you there's an element of he didn't want them to get the credit. I think he wants the credit. He wants the glory. He doesn't want the FBI to come in there to his district and do the job better than his local law enforcement. And again, you can say that sounds ridiculous, but humans can be pretty ridiculous. You better believe it. Shadow knows it. So I think that's kind of what's happened here. Sheriff Nanos, vindictive, holds a grudge. And I think this is what that looks like in action. Not doing what would be best for the case.
Between the FBI and the sheriff.
Yeah, that statement was a little bit more than a little animosity. For the sheriff, for the FBI to release a statement like that in any way, shape, or form criticize local partners is really, really not a great thing. And when they spoke, or when they released that, they didn't even use the sheriff's name. And that is really kind of intentional as far as I can see, because if, he's an elected official, he would like to see his name on these things. And so by not releasing his name, they're kind of indicating that they're at a distance, working relationship wise.
And again, and that's about as direct as you're going to see the FBI come to like making as close to a criticism as you're going to see them get. It would almost be unheard of to do that too publicly, but that's close. Like, yeah, we asked, they're just not doing it. And who knows what's going on behind closed doors with it. There might be some stern emails. Who knows?
I think maybe trying to make the point like, hey, we wanted this months ago. We had the same technology months ago. Again, kind of back to, you wonder if they had the experienced people in charge of homicide, would things have been different? I'm kind of wondering if they had sent the hair months ago when the FBI first asked for it, if things would have been different.
I can't help but think so. See, when the sheriff is down into the weeds into a case so far that he is making the decisions on whether we're going to cooperate with the FBI or not on this one little hair, imagine what else he might have his fingers on. They say, well, he couldn't really damage the investigation. He's just, a manager. Well, guess what? He's making specific, important decisions in the case. If I was a sheriff and my homicide people refused to send evidence to the FBI lab, we'd have a conference and find out about that. We'd want to know exactly why they felt that the FBI's lab was not good enough for them. And I think it's indicative of a feeling of animosity between the sheriff and the FBI. And it's really unheard of. And it's unheard of for the FBI to say, hey, we asked. We wanted to do it the right way, but the sheriff, for reasons we don't know, needed to send it to a lab 3,000 miles away.
Yeah, like I said, I think that there was definitely some animosity there. In the last couple of weeks, I've talked to people on both sides, smart people, law enforcement experts, people like you. Some believe
smart people and people like me.
And people like you, yeah. Some people, but none of them have cute cats that pop up during the you're the only one.
I'm nervous again.
Yeah, which a lot of people liked, by the way. But
I'm glad.
Some people think that there was only one suspect and that it's totally possible to have done this alone. And there are others who are 100% convinced it was at least two people, maybe three or four. Where do you stand on that?
I think.
What do you think, chat, before he answers? I've always thought at least two. I'm not going to guarantee three, but I think at least two were in on this. But what do you think? One person, two person, three people? So type the number, how many people you think it was, whether it's 1, 2, 3, etc. I think at least two. And I think part of it's because it's a little more difficult than people would imagine to carry out a Nancy Guthrie just with one person. I'm not saying it's impossible, especially if it's dead weight, but it's a struggle. It would be a struggle, I think.
That your statement that you just made was absolutely all-encompassing and correct. Some people very, very rightly say that it's hard to imagine a single person doing this. But at the same time, you can't put your weight down on the ice. And I don't mean to be equivocal on this, but the finest, in my opinion, the finest investigative organization in the world is having trouble with this case. So I don't want to sit here on the internet and say I would have done this differently, or I believe this and this and this. I think both are possible. I think it's more likely statistically that it was two people. But when you go back and you look at a lot of the famous kidnapping cases in history, occasionally they are, and frequently they are, sole individuals. But when they are sole individuals, usually what you're dealing with is an infant or a child. Because think about this, you can't live your normal life if you are, if you have guests in your house, it's stressful enough to go to work. But if you have a guest who's trying to escape, it's undoable with one person for any length of time.
Do you think there could have been, and some others have called it like a chef and a waiter, a boss and an underling? Could there have been a boss of this operation and then some people that were just sort of working for him?
Huh. It's a possibility. What do you think, chat? Do you think there was a boss and an underling? Or do you think these people were hired by someone closer to the family? Or just completely unrelated to the family? And unrelated to the family to punish Savannah? I don't know. I've always thought more so that it's somehow connected more to the family, the person who started it. But it is possible. It is possible the punishment doesn't involve anyone close to the family, too. It can be for a punishment and not involve them. It could simply be because who Savannah is and who her husband is. I think that's a possibility, too. But what are your thoughts, chat? What do you think about this?
Well, in any situation, there's going to be somebody who kind of has a greater sway on what's happening. So I would agree with that 100%. I don't know if it was a formal, if somebody hired somebody. You generally, nobody but a fool would hire somebody to help them with a kidnapping. So it would have to be two like-minded individuals.
Someone that the other person trusts, like a friend, or
Yes, exactly. That's what I would go with. The kidnappings that I worked have involved people who were friends beforehand, or acquaintances, or relatives, and they all worked together to get this thing done with a promise of shares in the ransom.
when let's say it is more than one person and they've now like made a pact, like we are not going to say a word about this ever, does that usually stick traditionally?
No, that will not stick for very long at all. That's anybody who believes that. It comes down to one person everybody has a risk tolerance, and in that situation, one of the two will have risk tolerance that is not as high as the partner, which means they will bail before the other one will. It's like playing chicken.
I think it had to have been a team of sorts. Because, like I said, I don't think you'd hire a random person to do such a big job with you. I think they were connected somehow. Now, how they were connected, I'm not quite sure. Could it be organized crime connected? Possible. I'm not ruling that out. I don't think it was a cartel, though. I don't think a cartel has enough of a motive to be doing this kind of thing. But it might have been a couple criminal hooligans that knew each other. Because, like he said, it would be a big risk to hire someone you don't know in such a risky operation where if you're caught, you're probably going to jail for life. Just something to think about.
Is there any chance the person in the video who we saw at the front door, who maybe is not the boss, let's just say the boss, could be dead? Like, have you ever had cases in the past where, they'll actually kill someone to make sure that they don't speak out?
I'm aware of those kind of cases. I've never worked one like that, but it's certainly possible. In that case, you're probably dealing with somebody who is probably much more obviously violent, has killed before, and I think might have handled the kidnapping itself in a different way. But these are just what we would sit around in the squad bay and bat around as possibilities.
Yeah, and the thing too is, if that person, let's just say, was, and it's just a kind of a possibility, but was killed, you would think that they must have had friends and a family, and if someone just disappeared, someone else besides Nancy Guthrie then disappears, wouldn't someone sort of wouldn't that sort of get out somehow?
Especially if it happened in Tucson, yes, because guess who would be investigating it? The Tucson or the Pima County Sheriff's Department would be investigating it, and that would be kind of an interesting synergy if all of a sudden they had somebody who could potentially be a suspect end up dead or missing.
I guess at this point we only have evidence of one person because we've only seen the person on the camera in the front. Granted, that doesn't mean that they don't have evidence of behind the scenes that we don't know about, maybe shoe prints or something from a different person. But do you think it's possible for one person to have got Nancy out, put Nancy into a car, or would that have to be a two-person job?
Well, I saw Jim Clemente on your show and was fascinated by what he said. Jim and I have worked together on several things, and I very much trust his opinion. What I would need to know from Jim on whether I believe Jim believes it's one person, and I would want to know what leads him there. I'm not disagreeing with him, but and if he says, yeah, there's no absence of a second person or no evidence of a second person, I would need more than.
There's a question for the chat. If you're watching the show from a TV, are you able to like the video from a TV? I don't even know the answer to this question, but does anyone know the answer to that question? Hello there, user. Welcome. It'd be good if they did have an option to, but I don't even know what the option would look like hitting the plus sign or something. I only think of people liking the video from their phones or their desktop.
That, I mean, what evidence do we have of that, of one person except the camera? If we're saying that we don't have camera of the second one, that to me doesn't in and of itself say there were two. But if Jim says it, I take it very seriously.
Do you think the agents, and it seems like the working theory, we don't know, but it seems like the working theory is that this was some kind of ransom situation. It sounds like they believe the initial notes were real and then something went wrong and the whole thing changed and now the people have disappeared. But do you think they have to look at the possibility, and this is one of the questions I've gotten a lot sort of behind the scenes from viewers, that the ransom is like a ruse, like they're using the ransom to cover up for something else that was really the motive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to tell them they're absolutely wrong. It's not what I believe happened. I believe that this was an amateurish kidnapping that went bad, and they broke the first rule of getting a ransom, and
this is the one I disagree with him on. I don't think it was for ransom. Some people still do, but I think it was more of a punishment. I think it was a hit, and the hit was for a punishment. He doesn't agree, and that's fine. But I've always thought it's a hit, not a kidnapping gone bad for ransom. Because if it was really a kidnapping gone bad for ransom, it really went so wrong, it's out of control. And like I've been saying constantly, of all the ways to get money for a ransom, this is what you're going to do? This method? Go after Nancy Guthrie in the middle of the night? Like, really? Of all this, because again, I just don't think the only motive here, or I don't think the motive at all was money for that matter. I think if your motive was money, why choose such a risky operation? Why would you do that? Of all the other scams that are out there that don't include a life sentence if caught, why not try them? It just doesn't add up to me. I just think the motive has to be something a little more sinister than money, in my opinion.
Losing what you have to bargain with, losing your bargaining chip. And then when it went sideways, and by sideways, I mean the Guthries and the FBI would not pay a ransom without proof of life, they're screwed. They broke the first law of kidnapping.
And that's why we are where we are.
Yes.
Yeah. Something else I've been wondering about is a vehicle. There was some surveillance video early on from quite a ways away, but it was possible. And the sheriff's office said that it is part of the investigation. They're looking into it of a white SUV going by. And they said early on that they were reviewing thousands of images of vehicles, I'm guessing from like traffic cameras in the area. But I just think back to the Brian Koberger case, that white Hyundai Elantra, that was sort of the first big break when they said we have a vehicle that we want everybody to look for. Are you surprised that we still don't have a vehicle in this case?
Yeah, I really am, Brian.
I'm surprised too, by the way, that there's no vehicle in this case. And I've wondered of all the ways you can try, all the other Nest cams and Ring cams and even satellite footage. I mean, why not try at this rate? What do you have to lose? But let's see what he thinks.
Just in the world as it is today, with the technology we have on doorbell cameras, and the fact that doorbell cameras are used by a large percentage of the elderly population. Not saying that everybody in Catalina Hills there were elderly, but a lot were. I am surprised that we don't have anything more on the car. And as far as, you know, the white car they're talking about, you have to go in to their chroma key and to the technology and determine, well, was it white? Was it beige? Was it light blue? Things like that, that on a camera that is set up to see relatively well in the dark, how it modifies certain colors. So I would say white appearing car. But yeah, I'm really surprised that we haven't seen that.
Is there any chance that they do have a car, and would they not release that for a reason?
Yes and yes. Yes, the Bureau, you know, we get a lot of these things where
Shadow wanted me to remind you to like the video, Beautiful Day, because it is such a beautiful day in the neighborhood, isn't it? Shadow thinks so.
a new piece of evidence comes out, and a new piece of evidence, and the FBI will say, everyone, we've had that since day 4 or day 5. We don't, you know, you're not on our list of daily case updates for the director, you know. So the FBI and law enforcement in general are only going to release what needs to be released. They are not a media company. They are an investigative and prosecutive organization, and media response to them is a necessary requirement, but it's a meet the minimum standard requirement.
Yeah, that's like why when they first released the photos from the front camera of the suspect, and you know, it was Kash Patel who actually put them out, I was thinking, you know, it doesn't seem like they do that unless they really have to. It's not something they just want to do.
I can tell you authoritatively that's the case. And it's not because the FBI hates the public. It's not because agents don't want the people to know. The FBI wants them to know. They want to tell you everything about the case, right down to the tiniest detail. They want everything to come out in trial. They are not hiding this. They are preparing for trial, where they will tell you everything, because that is where the public has the absolute right to know. We have public trials. We don't have public investigations. Those are the two differences.
And that's true. I mean, from what the local law enforcement and the FBI are releasing, they're certainly not doing that much of a public investigation, right? They're giving us a couple breadcrumbs here and there. But for the most part, we're hearing much more from the likes of Sergeant Cross and former Undersheriff Rick Castiger. They're using this opportunity to kind of grill Sheriff Nanos, and rightfully so. But we're hearing more about that drama behind the scenes than we really are about any kind of new updates. I mean, let's be real here. When's the last time there's been a real update in this case? When? This hair thing? Sending the hair that they wanted sent 2 months ago? Is that the last real update? What about before that? Nothing. Nothing since what? Nothing since the thumbnail images from the other Nest cams that weren't even from the night of the abduction, right? The biggest piece in the case was the Nest cam footage. Like, that was the pinnacle, right? And then that night the FBI raided Luke Daly and his mom. That was the night that we thought that, oh my goodness, they might have found her. Or, oh my goodness, they got the perp. But really, they didn't. But those are the two biggest days in the case, right? Besides it actually happening, the biggest 2 days were Nest Cam footage released and then that FBI raid. And that's really it. So we don't really know that much. So like he said, private investigation, public trial. And I don't think Brian Entin's, I wouldn't call Brian Entin a grifter, by the way. I think he's got integrity, and I do think he's trustworthy. I trust him more than anyone else talking about the case. Shadow does too. And speaking of that, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Spank that like button. Julie likes to say that. And then remember, leave your DNA of choice on the like button. Throw Shadow a like vest the way Brian Hooker should have to Lynette Hooker. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. And then say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. Black Sheep Nation. And thank you for all of the support I've gotten so far. Super chats, super stickers, becoming a channel member, or gifting channel memberships. They all help me pay for Shadow's Hootie Snacks. And he likes his Hootie Snacks. And I love Shadow, so I like to keep him fed. I'm thinking this week, Wednesday. Wednesday night, I'm thinking will be the members-only live stream.
So do you think there's significant information the FBI knows about this investigation? Because like, my sense is no, honestly. I mean, I just feel like there's so little. But what do you think?
If they had significant information, they would have more progress on the case.
Yeah.
I think what you would find is if you could go in and get briefed by 4 or 5 different agents who are working it, you would find so much information that ultimately turned out to be of little or no value, but seemed so promising at the time. And it would probably light a fire on social media if the public knew these things, and it would light a fire that would not be helpful.
Interesting. And speaking of helpful and not helpful, I don't know if you remember, the Cajun Navy submitted a plan to the sheriff's office. It's like a month ago, saying that they wanted to organize a search, bring in resources, drones, dogs, and they wanted the sheriff to approve it, and they wanted to search where the sheriff wanted them to search. They wanted, they wanted guidance from the sheriff. They didn't want to just come in and do it on their own. The sheriff basically ignored them. We never heard anything again. Well, now the Cajun Navy has come forward and said, we want to submit a revised plan to the sheriff's office. We want feedback from the sheriff's office, and we want to revise our plan so that you'll approve it and we can help. And I still don't think they've heard anything. Where do you stand on that?
Now, I've always thought the Cajun Navy should be allowed to help. Now, Bella, the surgical nurse of the chat, always reminds me when I say that, they did mess up a case once, the Cajun Navy. And I would say, well, that can happen. I mean, it looks like Sheriff Nanos and friends have messed up this case. So, I mean, why not? Why not let the Cajun Navy come in there and try to help? Why not let them do some grid searches or something, right? Why not? So that would be my thought. And they want to re-update their proposal. And according to Maureen O'Connell, former FBI agent, they don't even need permission. So it's kind of a good faith gesture. They're even asking for permission. Because maybe even though they don't technically need permission, maybe if they do it without permission, local law enforcement harasses them or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me. But what do you think? Should we be letting the Cajun Navy go out there? I think so. I think yes. But what do you think? Press 1 if you think they should let them. Press 2 if you think, nah, it's too late now. It's too late now. They should have done this a while ago.
I'd have to see where somebody said that there were negatives involved in it. I mean, why not? What are we losing here? You already released the crime scene too early. Now you're afraid that they're gonna, trump on your crime scene again. I'm not necessarily 101% hopeful that they'll find anything, but how is that going to destroy society in the Tucson area? Let them do it. Show them some respect. They're willing to help you. Why? If somebody could come up and say, this is the reason we don't want to do this, that would be cool. I get that if you have a reason, but not responding to them is a little counterproductive and disrespectful.
Also, I mean, just even if they just stayed away from the crime scene, I mean,
But beautiful, beautiful day. It's not even just about the Nancy Guthrie case, and you know that. A lot of this is also the community that is allowed to happen here, you know? And so people come in here and they talk to one another. They're the flock of black sheep. It's not just about the Guthrie coverage. So no need to be mean. Let's see.
there's vast desert out there,
Oh,
and there's
I
a lot of
assume they
other
would.
unsolved crimes. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what they would find out there, you know?
Yeah, you know what's funny is I went 20 years ago or something. We were looking for a missing plane, and we searched for 2 or 3 days. We found 5 planes, not ones that people were still looking for, but planes that had crashed that nobody would even know were still there. They don't always remove the wreckage. I was astounded at the things you find during an aerial search. And so I 100% agree with you. They could find all sorts of things that might work with other cases.
I do wonder if it's an ego thing with the sheriff, like not really wanting anyone else to have any success so that they can be the one in the end to say we did it.
That's what I said before, right? I mean, I've been saying that for a while, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, when it comes to ego people, you can't be surprised when they do ego things, right? That's what being an ego person / narcissistic person is. They do selfish things for their own ego. And from everything we've heard about Sheriff Nanos, he does tons of selfish things for his own ego.
I hope that would not be the case. I can't rule that out at all at this point. I would hope that he wouldn't want only him to have success in something like this, but I would hope that he would at least, I don't know. I just can't rule that out. It just seems to match some of the scenarios.
As always, I really appreciate Steve for taking the time to talk with me. He always has such interesting insight when it comes to anything related to, crime or law enforcement or the FBI. Appreciate you guys for following along, for subscribing. I know Nancy Guthrie's kind of out of the headlines, but I'm going to stay on it. I'll let you guys know what I find out, anything new that comes along, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Hey guys.
Now we're going to go to Tony Bruski. But before we do, make sure you like the video because likes are free. Leave your DNA of choice in the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And in terms of this case, I just don't think they have anything to share. I mean, I do think there's things that they could share that they already know, but they're just kind of being stubborn because they want it to be a private investigation. And maybe there's some good reasons for that, maybe. But whatever they have, it hasn't been enough to catch someone. And I don't think they have anything new. So, I mean, they could release that 911 call. Wouldn't that be interesting if they did, right? That would get this thing back in the headlines. Release the 911 call. Who called? What time was it? What was their tone of voice? What did they say? Wouldn't that be interesting? I think so. Tony's got so many. Here we are.
But at the end of
This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruski and Robin Drake.
Well, reporting has now confirmed what many of us have suspected in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. The initial team assigned to work the case, by really no fault of their own, the ones that they were assigned to, they lacked homicide experience. The sergeant supervising the response has reportedly never worked a homicide. Seasoned detectives were allegedly moved off the squad before the case even started, and sources inside the department say it was about loyalty, not merit. That's where the problem.
Well, chat, let me ask you all. I could probably even get Jen Koffendorfer on the show at this point, but I wonder if people here would even want me to do that. So, like, if you're in the chat, press 1 if you'd want me to invite Jen Koffendorfer on. Press 2 if you would not want me to have her on. This should be interesting.
Lies. The critical first hours of the abduction belong to who's ever in the room, and the people in that room may not have been ready for what walked through the door. That's where we're going to be starting today. Your questions in the comments section on Substack, YouTube, Facebook, X, wherever you're watching us. Be sure to leave them. We'll try to get to them. Joining us, as always, Robin Dreek, retired FBI Special Agent, Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, my co-host. And it's a fun day. It's Friday Fun Day. Jennifer Koffendorfer is with us. So we have both perspectives in here today. Let's start, Jen. Sources saying that the sergeant who supervised the initial homicide response to Nancy Guthrie's home had never personally worked a homicide case and had only been a sergeant for about 6 months. Okay, I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere, I guess.
Well, how about this, folks? How about Robin Dreek? Press 1 if you'd prefer Robin Dreek. I might be able to get him unless he signed a non-compete agreement or what would you call it? What would he sign with Tony Bruski? Jennifer Koffendorfer certainly has not done that with Tony Bruski. I've seen her on Joe Pag's News Nation, many other places. But Robin Dreek, I think Robin Dreek would be a good guest.
But you don't want it to be your case. You're like, I don't want the rookie on this one. But when you hear that, Jen, I mean, what is the first thing that comes to your mind of concern of like, okay, rookie and like rookie mistake? Here's likely what could have been missed. What came to your mind when you heard that?
Well, as you said, this was
so Robin Dreek. He's the other guy, not Tony Bruski, not Jen. He's the other person. Sammy the Bull.
something that seemed evident by what we saw. In other words, the crime scene being abandoned early and the mistakes made in regards to search parties being called off literally on day 2. We saw the rookie mistakes come to light, and now we're hearing, of course, the source reporting that that's because he was a rookie. So as you said, as you opened with, I don't think any of us are surprised. And for me, I'm not surprised that Nanos made these calls, because we've been hearing about how he chooses people not based on their abilities, but based on his relationship with them. And whenever you run an department like that, you're going to run into problems like this.
Yeah, my gosh, Jen. I mean, in every organization, because we had one of the comments, why aren't all departments trained in this type of investigation? You are.
So this is Robin Dreek, for those who don't know.
What happens typically, where Jen and I worked with the Bureau, is you always had a lead investigator that had all the experience. And even if the junior person came in and initially found it, got the tips, got the call, whatever it is, once it gets back to the squad area, it gets transferred to the senior guy. You become a support role until you are met.
Nancy Grace probably would say no or ignore me, but you never know. You never know. Nancy Grace, she could have some warm heart in her too. Sometimes they say it's the tough exterior that is there to guard a vulnerable inside. Maybe that's true with Nancy Grace. I don't know. But Nancy Grace, I think she's funny when she rips into people. Like on Tickety Talk. I thought that was great when she did that.
Entered, taught, and trained by those senior agents. And what it does is typically it makes you very hungry at a young age with a lot less experience, because you want to be that guy. You want to be the person.
Oh, we got super chat, Shadow. Sweet Caroline. Miss Kim has a message. Oh, that's one way to get my attention with it. Shadow and I say thank you, Sweet Caroline. Let's see what Miss Kim's message is. Oh, there it is. Hi, everyone coming in. Please support the channel, share, subscribe, all the things. Become a member. I love it, Miss Kim. And I love Sweet Caroline for bringing that to my attention and pointing it out. Shadow and I are always very grateful. Shadow is the night owl here to my right. Shadow the night owl, spirit animal / mascot.
Person out in front. You want to be in charge because you now have all these reps of following in the footsteps of these great masters and Jedis in front of you. But Nanos destroyed that entire. It's so disappointing.
Like I said, everybody. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here for a moment, and everyone knows I'm not a fan of Nanos, but everybody does have to start somewhere. I'm assuming, the sergeant here that was in charge only 6 months. Before that, they had worked their way up, probably under somebody, probably saw a lot of things, and then finally got the title. And you hope by the time you get the title, you got enough reps underneath you that, yes, you're new to the position, but you're not new to that sort of work. Is that what's going on here? I don't know that we truly know the answer to that, but is this something where, obviously we haven't found Nancy yet, but where this looks worse on paper and it makes for a great headline more than it operationally is super deficient in the case? I don't know. Your thoughts, Jen?
Tony, I love this side of you. You're kind and gentle today. No! You find out and you believe this is an abduction, your first call has to be to the FBI, period, end of story. There's not even a check mark in the Pima County statistics that shows they've ever had an abduction, because they haven't, not in this vein. And second of all, even if you look at their homicides, remember, homicide is way different than murders. If you look at murders, now you're also down on reps, as we're talking about
12 in 2025, I think it was, or 2024.
See, this is simple. Call the FBI, not 3 days later, not after you've processed the crime scene, that, by the way, has only one time to ever be processed. After that, it's really nothing. You got one chance at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just had no one out in front and tell them what to do, saying, hey, and so even if you have the junior guy in charge, there's always someone like right here saying, kind of give the nudges, because that's, you're right. Tony, good job on giving the grace and the positive aspect of this. But, and granted, it could be going on because, again, we're.
It's Miller time for Rooster. Shadow salutes. Bethany, thank you very much for the super chat, Bethany. Panos Nanos sucks, aka Nanos. Shadow agrees, Bethany. Shadow and I are going to do a breakdown of Sheriff Nanos' narcissistic tendencies. And we're going to say narcissistic for legal purposes and not narcissist. But thank you very much, Bethany. Shadow and I are very supportive, or I should say grateful. And please remember to like the video out there, because likes are free. Spank the like button. Leave your DNA in the like button. Throw Shadow a like vest the way Brian Hooker should have sent one to Lynette Hooker. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
I'll do the same thing. I'll be kind, because it's the lower levels that you want to support, because they're the ones doing the hard work. But it doesn't sound like they're doing what they should be doing, in the sense of there's no senior experience with reps with the junior guy that's leading this investigation. And what happens is you get the deer in the headlights and you hit fight or fright or freeze. They froze, it looks like, because there's a lot of things they should have done quicker.
What I guess what makes no sense to me about this whole damn thing, Nanos, in my opinion, seems kind of like an egomaniac. He likes the attention. He likes the spotlight on him. And typically that's for good things. You want to be looked at as, okay, you're a hero. You're solving cases. You're doing this. You're doing that. His department actually has a fairly decent track record of solving homicides, although there's not many of them, but it's still there. It is what it is. Why? I mean, like, if at the end of the day, the people below you are going to be a reflection of your leadership, he should know that. He's been doing this 40 some years. why would you, in something that is truly, this is going to be a high profile case because of who it is, why would you allow for that, putting somebody on this case that doesn't have the experience when you do have other people that could handle it more efficiently, more professionally, with more experience? I know we go to and maybe this is the answer, the ego thing of, well, some of these people didn't support him, so this is all he has left. But at the end of the day, the reflection of the performance is going to come back at him. He knows it. Why would you be going out there with your weakest link, knowing eventually this will reflect back on you?
It's very simple. Control. He wanted to maintain control, which means he's going to put the people in charge that he can easily control and that they side with him. And I can't wait to hear what Robin's take is on this.
And what does that sound like? Someone that needs to be in control? Sounds like a narcissistic person, because everything they do about power, control, managing their image, narcissistic supply, and avoiding accountability.
We really just didn't see that much in the Bureau, at least that I saw, personally working from matters.
Mm-hmm.
You put the best, and sometimes those guys and gals didn't necessarily jive with the supervisor, but the supervisor knew.
Shadow says he used to work for the bookshelf, not the Bureau.
Let him run. Let them run. We'll wheel them back in if we need to, but let the horses run. I don't remember having anything like this, really.
No, and I'm with you, Jen. And I'm not the rah-rah Bureau guy. I'm very pragmatic about rights, wrongs, and everything else. But when it came to this kind of stuff, whether it's the criminal side or my side, national security, it actually, as a junior agent, it made you really, really frustrated because you felt like you had the reps after 5, 6, 7 years that you could take lead on this. But again, if the big one came in, it went to the senior person on that squad with all the experience in that particular area. And then if you're lucky and you were a good support person supporting the lead, they'd allow you to be part of it. And then they would test you. Well, we'll give you this to do. And if you can keep your mouth shut, not complain, and do this a good job, we'll give you a little bit more responsibility. So they're constantly doing a really good job. And that's not just Bureau. That's everywhere typically does that. And Jen, great point on Nanos. It's about control, right? And also, Tony, I didn't know the timeline you mentioned. He might have gotten rid of all the good people before this happened, thinking that, hey,
demoted many of them.
Yeah, so think about it. If he's got his mind, nothing ever big happens here. I'll just maintain control, and then boom, and then what happens? Something big. So he don't have anyone left.
Is this, the word that I overuse all the time, narcissistic? But is this just a narcissistic move where, did he, pure conjecture and speculation, but is this something where he did see an opportunity? There's going to be a lot of spotlights on this. I can't believe that he didn't think that there's going to be a lot of spotlights on this, although who knows? He doesn't seem to be the brightest bulb. But let's say he did see it coming. Was this a play of, let's put somebody out there who may not be the best, and then, as we know, a lot of narcissists, they like to knock the blocks down and build them back up and go, look at me, I'm saving the day.
Tony Bruski. That is something they'll do. They'll create problems, and then they'll present the solution to those problems and act like they deserve a high five. But in reality, the whole problem wouldn't have existed if not for them. So, sneaky narcissistic tactic. I'm impressed Tony Bruski knew about that one.
I'm wondering if this is some sort of a calculation quietly in the back of his mind of, we're going to let this person fail and then I'm going to step in. You're going to see me in the spotlight and I'm going to answer the questions much better than they ever could. All for the ego play. Maybe that's a bit too deep, but I don't know.
It might be deep for Nanos. I think it was.
Yeah. He's not a deep thinker, right?
It was a little simpler than that. I really think it just came down to, listen, I'm going to put you in charge because you're a yes man. You're new. I'm going to have total control. I'm not going to have to worry about argument back and forth about decisions that are being made because they're going to be my decision. And, that's the last thing you want, by the way. You want people on your team that are going to push back some on the things that they feel strongly about, that you can cut up. That's what we call it. We cut it up and we look at it and we're, the person that might be the case agent, and they might have 2, 3, up to 10 was the largest amount of agents I had assigned to a case.
Yep.
You cut it up and you and you work through it. And oftentimes I know as a case agent, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let's switch direction on this, or let's try this. That's how it should work.
We did it all the time on the behavior team too. Exactly like that. Whether you're a team leader or fell in another role, whether it's on your squad. I mean, it is literally a team effort to do that. I think it's overconfidence played in too, because we keep talking about his narcissistic tendencies, control. Part of that, I think, is because of all his time there. He's overconfident. He probably thought this thing was an easy case to solve, maybe.
What damage has been done by these decisions? And is there any rectifying it? Is there any way of correcting any of this at this point? Jen, what's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, you can never get a crime scene back. Second of all, you can never get the first 48 back. Third of all, Nancy's gone. Still no idea where she went, what happened to her. And number four, we have no pointer on a subject. So that's your answers to all of that, I think. And then I'll go one step further, which nobody's really talking about. And this is why I hate to see this. I cringe when I see this, not because of the reporters again, but because of the message. This is such fodder for a defense team. I mean,
really good point.
But will there ever be?
It's almost like Jen's listening to our show. Haven't we said the same thing? Or maybe she listened to Matt Murphy when we went over that. But anything Sheriff Nanos is saying now, and again, now I could criticize Jen here, because when Sheriff Nanos says that the family's cleared, that's one of the things that I said is fodder for the future defense, depending on whoever gets charged, right? So I could use this argument against what Jen was doing the other day too. But I think a defense team will have a field day with many of these things, including who Sheriff Nanos says is cleared and not cleared, etc.
Justice in this case, because you think the social media hounds are on this and the creators? Oh my gosh, wait till we see a defense team when now they've got 100 reasons why the guy that probably is the guy that they're going to end up arresting isn't the guy.
Well, just the debacle of the gloves. You know, who is one of the glove a perpetrator glove, or is it a glove?
Well, by the way, folks, I looked into Matt Murphy because he's my top choice. Nancy Grace would be a top choice too, and Maureen, I guess, as well. But I think Matt Murphy is just as good as Maureen, honestly. But I ordered his book as well because I want to, when I ask him, I want to give him some fodder from his book to make him more likely to say yes. What's the name of his book? Something About Murder is the name of his book. Which, of course, now I can't find it. There it is. The Book of Murder, A Prosecutor's Journey by Matt Murphy. So we'll see how that goes.
Glove of an ERT agent? I mean, just the glove debacle, for one thing, you're right. I mean, just the handling of the crime scene because of how it's handled at the onset. That's going to be a lot of fodder. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This whole thing is like ripping the rug of hope out, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, didn't the glove turn out to be like somebody that worked at a restaurant down the road or something?
Yep.
It's like
there's 16 gloves though. And I saw an interview and I can't remember what date it was because he's done a lot. Even after he stopped his pressers, he still was, interviewing with NBC and the local affiliate where he said that wasn't even the glove. You got to watch it where he's like, that's not even the glove, something like that. In other words, not the glove everybody's been talking about. There were 16 gloves, everyone.
Does he even know what glove? I mean,
because Matt Murphy, he's got the presence, right? He's done it. He's been there, done that. DA for over 25 years in California. So he has the presence and he has the presentation. And Laura has a crush on him. Can't forget that.
the end of the day, does he even know what one it was? Here's a thought I had on the glove, with it being the guy from the restaurant. I'm going to guess this guy has reps in throwing gloves out his window every day. I'm guessing after he leaves the restaurant as a line cook or whatever he's doing, gets in his car, rolls down the window, takes them off, boom. It's probably a pattern. That might be why there's 16 gloves from 16 or 8 different dinner services. I don't know. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's maddening. The fact that there's really no levers to pull for repercussion on poor decision making by leadership in these sort of positions. Is that a flaw in our system? Do we have a system that relies too much on people doing the right thing, being professional, being good, doing the right thing, and we also then rely on our citizens to pick the right person as well? Is this something that maybe should be re-examined, because we end up with a lot of folks like this in these sort of positions, and everybody's like, how did this happen? You chose them. That's how. You didn't pay enough attention and you picked the person.
You know, Tony, at the end of the day, you said it. He was chosen. He was elected. And the amount of power in these sheriff's offices, it's very different than the Bureau.
Yeah.
There's a lot of checks and balances. You are all powerful, really. You're kind of like the SAC, I guess, in a field office. So the head of that field office is pretty much all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But still accountable. They can still be removed. We've seen it, and that's I'm with you, Jen. You know, he's got too much power as an elected official in charge of this, and you can't remove. I mean, if this happened inside the Bureau, and I'm so sorry, Jen, I totally jumped on you on that one. But it's so accurate. He can't be removed. Like,
It's kind of wild a sheriff is an elected position to begin with. Why is law enforcement political? I guess you can make an argument for it becoming political because they would say, well, depending on your political affiliation, you'll have different thoughts towards law enforcement and how it should be conducted. But even so, you want to be able to remove people if they're no longer good. And the fact that it's a elected position makes that more difficult. So where I'm from, they're not elected. Like the chief of police, I'm not sure how they actually become the chief of police where I'm from. I don't know if there's an internal vote or something, which is not the same as political, but it's something. Maybe there's like a board. There's a board that chooses them. I don't know.
so if this was inside
Or maybe it's the mayor. Maybe the mayor chooses the chief of police.
the Bureau and you had a couple of case agents, too young, assigned to a case, I can guarantee you, I don't care what program it is, they won't be doing that again anytime soon. The supervisor's going to be having a good talk to. It might be shifted squads between what they do. I mean, there is always repercussions, especially if it's an outward focused case, and it's going to not just impact the case, but the reputation of organization, which goes to that feeling of you can trust the organization to do right. All those things matter when it comes to optics as well as execution. So there would be major shakeups inside of the Bureau if that happened.
Let me give you one example really quick, Tony, and Robin, is if you look at the New Orleans case.
Yes, I know exactly. Yep, that's what I was thinking of. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
And ASAC, she got on there and she said, I mean, despite all the information that was out there, the banners waving, ISIS, everything that was known, she said, well, this isn't necessarily a terroristic event, when basically you just needed a pulse to sort of see that. She could have just said it a little bit differently and maybe gotten away with it. She was plucked out of there so fast it made your head spin.
Yep.
Because you said when it comes to a public reflection of the Bureau and not looking like you know what you're talking about, you're gone.
Yeah, and they sent the DAD down, a deputy assistant director, I think, from headquarters to handle that until they got someone new in there. I remember that very specifically because we're all watching like this. Oh my God, did she just say that? And they fixed it.
I wanted to help her. I was like, oh.
That's what happens when you get called in over because that was New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you put somebody who is new and a novice and doesn't have experience in that role.
Brand new ASAC.
Brand new ASAC.
Yeah, it's I think it's one of those things that the general public gets shocked by, but it's how the system is working as designed right now. The system needs fixing, and that's ultimately, I think, what the solution is to something like that.
So I'm going to do something a little unorthodox here. I just saw someone commented on one of my videos with Dr. Salerno, Narcissist and the Lingering Upset Effect, the title of that video with Dr. Salerno. But someone said in the comments in that video, kind of a troubling thing. But I'm going to read it because I want some people, when this is over, to give this person some support and love, because just to show them that it's not hopeless. So I'll read you what they said. The person says, it's depressing and troubling. Warning. I am done with life. There is no hope, no help, no safety, no safe people. Being a disabled person who is a TI with a narcissist psychopath for a mother means nothing is okay, and I will never be okay. Asking for help puts me in more danger, and no one who is supposedly a good doctor, quote unquote, actually give an F about anyone but himself. Learning how absolutely, unrelentingly insane my mother will be forever has not helped me at all. The clarity on that brings it all to one solution, the end of me. The only way I will ever get free is in death. My life is an absolutely horrifying nightmare and no one cares. My mother makes damn sure that I feel worse whenever I ask her to just be nice to me. My only solution is to stop being alive. So, I ask you all, on that interview with Dr. Salerno titled Narcissist and the Lingering Upset Effect, show this person some love and support. Oh yes, this person I'm reading is not a troll. They're just depressed and hopeless. But the point is, I wanted to show the power of the Black Sheep Nation and the flock of black sheep to go on to that interview and just say, you know what? You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that are in some pretty crappy spots. I don't like to make it a competition because anything can be crappy in its own way. But if some of the flock of black sheep can do that, that would be great. Shadow would appreciate it as well. No, it's someone that doesn't know of us. So that's why I wanted to mention it.
Can complain about it all day and how this is, but at the end of the day, that's why people vote, and that's why people need to pay attention.
And that's a good question for both of you. Why are there sheriffs that are elected? I don't understand why some organizations they're appointed, but like the town council, and then others they're elected. I mean, why? Because every time there's an elected official, it seems to really go sideways sometimes. Have we seen a good one?
So that video is with Dr. Salerno, and it's titled Narcissist and the Lingering Upset Effect. So that person, I won't say their username, but they commented like 5 minutes ago. And I read it just because it was such a dire message. But if people can find that and say something under that comment, I think that would be a great thing to do.
One.
Well, I think one issue is, and I'll use the Bureau. You have to, in my opinion.
Let's see here. Sweet Caroline, thank you so much for the super chat. Shadow and I really appreciate this. Now, this is why I'm here. How about that, Sweet Caroline? Sweet Caroline is the best, isn't she? But that'll give us some good hootie snacks. Shadow, he's going to be nourished today. No malnourishment in Shadow's future today. So we're all really appreciative of that. And thank you again, Sweet Caroline. Everyone else, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. Black Sheep Nation. And thank you again for all the support I've gotten so far.
And thank goodness the number 2 at the Bureau came up this way because I'm affiliated with him from time back in Houston. But you have to have somebody that came up through the ranks, earned their way, made their mistakes, made their bones, and then comes up. And typically the best people are people that never want to get into management. And they decide to, for whatever reason, either they're coaxed into it by upper management, or they're just like, oh my God, I cannot work for this idiot who has 3 years in and now he's my supervisor. So I got to make a move here. Something like that. But yeah, my point is it happens.
And that's why Louis Freeh was such a good director for us too, because he spent time as an agent first. What he's like 10 or 12 years before he went to private sector. So I mean, he was a great director. He's in, I think, with you too, right, Jen, when you came in?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Louis. Yes, he was
beloved.
and this is the type of guy he was. I got a quick personal story. So he was coming through the DFW airport. At that time, I had responsibility. I was SRA there. And when he came through, normally all the directors have this huge SWAT contingent.
Right.
He didn't want that. Like he was carrying his, might have even been a revolver back then. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. We were 10 millimeter. So anyway, they assigned me to be his bodyguard. Just me. He didn't want anybody else. He didn't even really want me. Talk about an agent's agent. This was an agent's agent, and that's what you got to have. Although Sheriff Nanos, he came through the ranks. I will say that.
Yeah. And something happened. fell in love with his own story.
Look at the Duggars. There's 19 kids that came out of the house. Some are good, some are not.
Someone goes sideways. Yeah, pretty bad.
Speaking of which, your thoughts in the comment section on this on Substack and YouTube. We'd love for you to weigh in.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruski and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Ransoms, on how they work, how they function. Can this be done? As a layperson over here, we've seen it in the past. We've seen Colonial Pipeline, Caesars. They've been able to track this sort of thing to a degree in real time when they've had ransom demands on their systems and figure out, okay, we pay the ransom. They track down who did it and they get their money back. It's probably far more complex and not as easy as that. But Jen, what have you found out in your research and your conversations that you've had about these Bitcoin demands and just how difficult they may be to track down or not? And I think
we just lost her again.
No,
as you asked the question,
because she is like Guthrie queen.
Yes,
she's doing a lot of work on this stuff. Yeah, the tracking through the Bitcoin and poking at the system is what she's really been pressing the sheriff, pressing the system, and it's why it's confusing. That's why, hopefully she can come back and comment on this, because and she said this in her last show, when you have the ability to do something, because the Bureau has resources, the Guthries have resources, and even said online and in social media that they're willing to pay for information just to get their mother back, and really in any kind of condition, why wouldn't you take a swing at it? And that's what I'm kind of curious about, especially when you have the ability to do some sort of track. And again, you just play the law of averages. So say you lose it. Mm-hmm. It's still intelligence you get. We would invest in the Bureau a lot of time, a lot of energy, and do a cost benefit analysis of the money we're going to invest in this for the intelligence we're going to get out of it. So I'm curious why they're not as well. Maybe they know something we don't know. Doubtful.
Well, I mean, I'm not super well versed in how Bitcoin works. I have very little of it in my investment portfolio, and I've never bought a damn thing in the world with it. I know there's ways that you can do that, but is it really that untraceable? Is it? I mean, I know there have been ways where it has been traced, and I guess to a layperson, that's the question that I think a lot of us have is like, well,
Bitcoin's traceable once it actually gets cashed out. Right? Especially if it gets cashed out through an exchange. Now, an over-the-counter transfer, that would be harder to track. But again, who's going to buy Bitcoin from that wallet? They're just not going to, right? So it's possible to try to wash it, but it's certainly not easy. And I wouldn't expect that to happen. I'm not holding any hope in that Bitcoin wallet. That's for sure. Because ultimately, I don't think so, because I don't think it was for ransom anyway. So I think that's all just going down the wrong path. It's the wrong direction. I think they did what they wanted to do. I don't think they did this for Bitcoin. They did it as a punishment, and it was a hit on Nancy. So I don't pay much attention to the Bitcoin stuff, to be honest.
If you can kind of trace it over here in some possible factions, why can't you over here in this? If you have not just the average Joe doing it, the full force of the United States government and their ability to track something like this, is it really that impossible to do? And it is simply the fear of losing $36,000 all that's holding anyone back from pulling that lever, I guess.
And that's what's interesting to me, Tony, because okay, so what I do when I do the calculations when I'm in the world of intelligence is let's just write off the fact that we're going to lose it. We're going to lose track of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all right, so if we write that off, if you're going for the intelligence, if you can actually garner some sort of intelligence on where she might be, why wouldn't you take a swing at that? So I would actually go for the end result, hoping you might get. So in other words, we're kind of talking about plan A would be to track the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And plan B is to find Nancy. Now I'm reversing it. Plan B is to track the Bitcoins. I think that's harder than trying to center on, all right, let's get some actionable intel, because as of what we know in the public right now, we have zero.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it garners another response, even if it gets someone to poke their head up somewhere, it's one more thing we have to track down, unless for some reason they are inundated with a lot more leads than we know about right now, because I think there's not much they're working with.
You know, that's what I guess I'm wondering about is, you know, we're hearing a handful of stories of, okay, there's a Bitcoin demand here over at TMZ. There's a Bitcoin demand over here at whatever. We're just hearing about a couple of them. When somebody knows that this is kind of the modality that are being demands are coming from in a case like this, you're going to get your copycats, and you're going to get everybody from some, you know, Yahoo on their computer in their mother's basement doing this, you know, all the way to maybe the actual person who has true information. How do you know who has what? You can't go pay every Bitcoin wallet $36,000 and hope for the best. And then how do you truly decipher who has information when that individual, even if they may have the information, doesn't have anything to prove to you that they are that much closer to the actual facts than anybody else?
That's what makes this so challenging, stupid to me.
Yeah.
Because, all right, so if we go back to, I know there's two main leading theories out there. Basically, the main thrust is something in the house was targeted. She was abducted from the house for either panic escalation because you're going for something else in the house and she dies along the way, or you went into the house to get her. But either way, you're trying to profit from something in that house, either her herself or something else. Or I'm sorry, the third theory is just to terrorize Savannah by making it personal. Okay, so with that in place, I'm still thinking that I still from the get-go, and that's why I love having Jennifer on, because, you know, we have all these different theories about what could be, and she is all in on, you know, it was targeted for Nancy and that these ransom notes are real. I'm bought in if that's the truth. But here's a challenge with it. If it was the truth, why aren't they pulling the trigger and doing it? Unless you go on to the other side of the coin, where I'm at on the ransom note side, I think the ransom notes were frauds.
Yeah.
Some of them, I would say, because I know that.
I think they were all frauds, honestly. Now, again, Savannah and Sheriff Nanos, they don't think they were frauds, but I just don't think they added up. And granted, I mean, Sheriff Nanos should know way more than me, but even so, it just doesn't seem congruent to me. With everything that happened, it just doesn't seem congruent.
I know there's some things going on with some of the notes with some religious overtones maybe, and they might be, in other words, we got a lot of notes. And so to your point, which one do you respond to? And I think some of them are very indeed coming from the Prince of Algeria, looking for your $1 billion, and all you got to do is give him $500 million first.
Well, it's interesting, if some of them carry, and this is just pure speculation here. So whoever's going to run with this as a story, understand that. If there is a pattern here of religiosity in some specific notes that kind of track of like, okay, these notes seem to come together. Like these might be from a similar group. That still doesn't mean it's from the kidnapper. It just means it's from someone who's consistently sending in the same level of madness. And there is a theory that's gaining some traction right now that some of the notes contain, or may contain, I should say, scripture, and that the person behind them may see themselves as holy, someone who gets off on control, not money. That would explain why the family's public appeals have landed so heavily on religious language. And it would explain why the Bitcoin wallet has sat empty for weeks if the money was never the point.
Yes, you are correct with 163 in here, getting to 200. Although there's probably way more views than 200 right now. But honestly, what we need is either a new Nancy Guthrie development, or I need some more guests on here as well, or I need, what else do I need? Or we just need other cases in general. And there's no shortage of cases, right? There's a D4VD, what's going to happen with that? Nick Reiner coming up. And sometimes I'll do short stuff too, like I did with Jake Reiner's Substack article. That I just recorded that on my own. And it's gone pretty well. That went pretty well for what that was. Mav's wifey dozing off.
How long is somebody like that willing to hold on? And does that change the window the Bureau is actually working inside? But if money's not the thing and it's all religious, why would that person be writing letters demanding Bitcoin? I guess it contradicts itself in the same way. But if we were to take the Bitcoin out of it, and because some of these notes I believe just had messages, didn't have a Bitcoin connection to it, just religiosity in them, allegedly. And if this is about control and it's not about money, and it's more so about watching the Today Show and then leaking some information out to somebody, and suddenly, oh, look, Savannah's not on that interview anymore. She suddenly was pulled away live on television. I mean, there's a level of control there that some asshole may be sitting somewhere going, I made that happen. People get off on weird shit. And if they can see them having a level of control of doing something like that, pulling a live television lever from wherever they're at, or then pulling the lever of emotions with this family and their tweets and their responses that they put out online, they're getting a reaction. They're able to connect directly with that celebrity that otherwise has gatekeepers in front of them, but they're able to do it because they did something so extreme. Sometimes it's just for the joy of that. And that's the sick, scary part. And that's the part where we may never actually find out who the hell did this, if that's the goal.
I totally get that and see it as a possibility. And just like all the other theories, though, all right, so let's go down that road. Then why isn't there more? So if you have a message of religiosity, or if you have some doctrine, if you have some poking you want to do, or you have some control you're trying to exercise, we're seeing a little bit of it. But there's so much more they could do if that was the end goal. Why, in other words, if you have a message inside of the ransom notes or the notes that you're sending to TMZ, they're not getting aired. So if there's a message in there you want to be aired, why wouldn't you find another outlet that would air the entire thing, or another way to put it out there? So, okay.
No, I think they are. I think they're attempting that right now.
Right, but I know, but it's the tempo that I'm not getting on this one, because people that are trying to gauge and control an action or control things tend to want to have a higher tempo, a return of their investment, of taking risk. And yes, but it's not quite all the way there is what I'm saying.
But I think there's also I think we might almost be overthinking it a little bit too.
I think so.
We're thinking that there's some sort of end goal here, that it is to get Savannah to do something or to get money or to get whatever.
No, I think the goal was already completed. I think the goal was a hit on Nancy. End of goal. End of goal. And bonus if you can make the family or Savannah suffer more. I think that was the goal. So, and if that's all the goal was, I mean, as of now, they've done a pretty good job with their goal, and they've avoided capture so far, and a body hasn't been found. So if you wanted to rate their freaking criminal activity up to day 86, I mean, could you have asked for a better outcome if you were them? Provided, of course, the hit was the goal. Now, if the goal really was ransom, then you can give them a very low score if that were the case. But I don't think that was the case. Shadow doesn't either.
It might just be somebody with some sort of extreme delusional religiosity going on that really enjoys poking animals with sticks. I mean, when you're at the zoo and you're looking at, not that you're poking animals with sticks at a zoo, but let's for a second, for the sake of argument, say that you're poking an animal with a stick at a zoo. Let's say you're 5 and have that sort of mentality. You're not sitting there going, I'm going to poke the animal with a stick with any sort of greater goal of like, I hope it sleeps well tonight, or I hope it eats more food. No, you're just going for the reaction at that moment, and then you walk away to the next exhibit because your brain is just firing every which way, and you're a kid. I'm wondering if that's kind of what's going on here. There isn't a greater go. There's not a greater good. There's not a greater goal. There's nothing. It's some asshole that is delusional as hell, thinks that they're communicating they're somehow communicating and moving people in some way, shape, or form by poking his family with a stick is somehow, it's fulfilling to them. And that's all they need. They're getting fulfilled by something. Not that there's a greater goal, but they're whatever they're hungry for, they're getting fed it.
So I like the thought process, Tony. So the intent I was speaking about earlier was the intent was to profit by something in that house. But we keep seeing incongruencies between that intent and actions, which keep not adding up. That's why you said we're overcomplicating it when we're doing that. So if the intent wasn't to make profit off of Nancy, because that went sideways. If the intent wasn't to profit off of taking something of material value out of the house, because that went sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and seriously, I'll say it again. I said it before. Why would you ever go through all this trouble to get money this way? I mean, of all the get-rich-quick things that you're looking for, like this is what you would do? I don't know. Shadow and I just don't buy it. Of all the things to do, I just don't buy that. I would say, I mean, you're better off trying to scam the elderly of money over time. I think that would be more likely because you're not going to get a life sentence for that probably if you're caught. So that's what has Shadow and I flummoxed. But again, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your DNA in the like button. Spank that like button, as Julie Bug likes to say. And throw Shadow a like vest the way Brian Hooker should have to Lynette Hooker.
What was the intent? Well, according to your theory, the intent is just to keep poking the bear forever. Which now, and so here's a great analogy for that. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, he had an intent in a manifesto of trying to get rid of technology in the world by blowing people up. But his intent was never to stop. His intent was to get better at it and just keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And so that's an interesting, because remember, always trying, it's never motive, as John Douglas talks about. Motive is something that we like to say in the press and the media and all that, but it's always about understanding. That's why I keep coming back to that word intent. And every time we're dealing with this Guthrie case, we can't quite keep lining the intent that we think it is up with the actions we're seeing. Yeah. But your theory out there, actually it lines up better than anything else I've heard so far. And actually, and also, and I think, I'm sorry to cut you off. And I think Coffindeffer's, Jen's great work on that poking at Nancy is definitely a huge answer, and then supporting that intent of the eternal purgatory they're trying to put the family in, because that it could be never ending without an end state of something that we're looking at, material gain, Bitcoin gain. That's why it's not gaining traction.
So Dana, is that the guy that called in to sleuth something or other? Sleuth investigation? And he was the guy that was saying one of his family members did it? I thought it was interesting. I mean, that guy, I thought it might have been true until he started talking about the body parts in the backpack. And then, because he had said, oh, the body's in that lake. And hey, I give those guys credit for going to go look. They looked at the lake. So I think good for them. Leo. What happened to him, Danielle? What happened to Leo? In critical condition. Did this just happen? Or has it been an issue? But whatever it is, Black Sheep Nation sends some good vibes to Danielle's dog, Leo, in critical condition.
Action is just one way to keep that attention and poke it. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, I'm wondering if the true person who's behind this has anything to do still with any of these ransom notes, or if it's someone who just saw an opening, saw an opportunity to start playing that role, and to be taken as seriously as if they were this, and they're doing it. I mean, there's the simplistic, innocent childhood version of it where it's a prank call. You know, and as a kid, you laugh at it and you get some excitement out of it. Somebody believed that this was crazy. I remember I used to prank the competing radio station across town with fake cancellations when there was storms. Now, Todd,
You've got Todd going.
Tony.
I would be like, the Our Lady of Basted Chicken is, or the Our Lady of Eternal Damnation is canceling their basted chicken roast today because of the storm. Okay, we'll get that on, and then they would air it, and I got extreme joy. It was funny. But that was innocent and stupid. This is someone's life. This is someone's mother. This is someone's well-being. This is someone's very existence. But I'm not saying that those same sort of levers or that same sort of fucked up enjoyment that you get from making a thing like that couldn't also be bastardized in someone's brain and be so cognitively distorted that there's people getting their jollies out of this sort of shit too.
Tony, I think out of everything we've covered so far, this makes the most sense to me, believe it or not, because if you wanted to, I mean, because this person's got away with this.
Yeah.
And the reason why most people get caught is because they're trying to profit. The intent is to profit in some way. And the attempt to profit is what always trips them up. But if you're not trying to profit, you're just trying to poke. You control the tempo of when you want to poke. And since it doesn't, and this makes so much sense. It's all falling in place. They were never looking for two-way communication. Remember, it's always one way. And anytime you do, and so let's just assume all the ransom notes are accurate or real, which I don't think. But the original ones that came in, which they think were, at least that's what Nancy, Savannah said, and some others have said, I think even Jen maybe, none of them actually gave away for two-way communication, which hasn't happened. And so remember, I keep going back to the stats saying, well, that can't be that, because the stats say every single case, there's got to be two-way communication, but this one wasn't. And so what fits no two-way communication needed? The poke, the poke, the poke, without the need for profit. They just want to get the attention to keep poking.
Some people just like the poke.
It's very, very interesting. I'm going to re-examine a few things on this one. And it's what I love about it too, it totally supports what Jen's been saying the entire time about retribution towards Savannah or the family in some way. Yes-ish. I think it might have been personal towards them, but it definitely created an opportunity for someone that was public, who's someone's mother, who they knew where they lived. In other words, it might have been targeted towards them, or it might have just been target of opportunity for them, for this need they had in their lives to have again, celebrity notoriety is a huge reason why a lot of morons do stupid things. Yeah. And this is, I mean, look at the celebrity notoriety they're getting out of this. They're, like you said, they're controlling a narrative at their tempo. All they have to do to get attention is put a little more trickle out there, without even, and it doesn't require two-way communication, which keeps them safe.
And that person may or may not have anything to do with Nancy. It may just be somebody who found a lever and is getting some joy out of doing this.
You're right. It might not have been the first one. It could have been someone that came along and just...
Oh, wow. I like this fun fact, sweet Caroline. Take a look at this. Dear Shadow. Shadow's the night owl to my right. Did you know that William Shakespeare was the first person to assign the term night owl to a type of person? I did not know that, nor did Shadow. Macbeth, Richard II, and more. Snacks for the disparaging stereotyping. How about that? See, you learn something new every day here in the Black Sheep Nation, in the flock of black sheep. Thank you for that tidbit there, sweet Caroline. I did not know that. I wonder if anyone else knew that. Oh, we got this. And Shadow thanks you very much for this too, sweet Caroline. Hootie Snacks, you see? Shadow really loves sweet Caroline. Make sure he's well fed. She's a good owl mom. Yeah, and also, yes, prayers for Leo, Danielle's dog, for sure. Good vibes, the power of good vibes. Thank you again, sweet Caroline. Hello there, Heather. How are you?
Riding the coattails.
Two totally different crimes being committed, in my opinion. I don't know.
Torture is what it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's somebody it gets joy. It's very sadistic type thinking. I mean, and yeah. Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube. We'd love for you to weigh in and give us your thoughts. Check it out. This is Robin's latest book. It's Not All About Me. It's available wherever you get books. Go check it out. Jennifer Coffindaffer, check out her channel on YouTube. And
I should probably check out Robin's book as well. It's Not All About You, and then invite him on the show.
On Substack, Break the Case.
All right. But everyone else, make sure you like the video because likes are free. Leave your DNA on the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat.
Hey everybody, Matt Johnson here. Major headlines in the case of missing Nancy Guthrie. I know over the past couple days, she's probably dominated your news feed. So I wanted to jump on here and go over some of the major headlines in the case, including the DNA evidence, where it stands, the 911 call, why it might not be released, and the sheriff and how he plays into this and the controversy with his department. So what's going on behind the scenes is the big question. I have a special guest, a world-famous homicide detective who is going to decode what might be happening behind the scenes.
Now, this channel we haven't watched as much, but it's True Crime with Matt Johnson. I think he's a contributor with either Court TV or News Nation. I forget which. So he's popular from that.
And what he's waiting on. So what is the word, or what is it that you're listening for and you're like, oh, they got something?
The phone call.
Do you think that Nancy was fatally injured? Do you think that she's alive?
Given what we know that she suffered a wound of some kind, I have been from the beginning of the opinion.
And I have a very special guest in the world of DNA. She's going to help us make sense over, the FBI now being involved, what that means, whether or not another lab will also get involved. Is this a delay in the process? We're going to hear from her. But first, do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. Now, the case of missing Nancy Guthrie. So here to help break it all down, we have a very special guest. We have Phil Waters, master interrogator, former homicide detective with decades of experience, and president CEO, Kindred Spirits Investigation Security. First off, thank you, sir, for your time. We are dying to get your take on this case.
Well, I appreciate you asking me, Matt. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and before I ask you why no police updates, as we are now in week 12 or beyond, and whether or not the family is being updated, I just wanted to get your take on the case as it stands right now when we're talking about Miss Nancy Guthrie.
Well, I think it's a great topic, of course, to get back to and discuss and see where we are. I don't see anything that stands out to me that we're not where they are supposed to be at this point. So at the beginning of this, what we saw, which was kind of unique in this particular case, is we're seeing an investigation take place in real time. So everybody was focused on it. Everything that came out of this investigation was being put out there. And the media, of course, was following everybody around as everything unfolded. Search warrants are being run, people are being detained, and that kind of a thing. So this has been kind of unique with this particular investigation. And I'm not surprised at where we are at this point. I've had investigations that we had a whole lot of stuff, some great evidence, but we just didn't have that piece that we needed to put us over the hump and getting a suspect identified. I mean, the whole goal here, right, is to find the right person who's done the wrong thing.
Yeah, so Matt Johnson was with Court TV, and then he left not that long ago.
And we've seen the clamoring about the sheriff as an individual, as the sheriff, and the investigation, and this is what happens in something like this. I kind of compared it to the Idaho murders and the clamoring there that took place when this thing wasn't solved in 43 minutes with no commercials. And, you know, they're all over the chief up there in Moscow. So the difference here is that this sheriff has difficulty communicating in the public arena about a high-profile case, and admittedly so. So he made some missteps, in my opinion, at the beginning.
I remember in the beginning, he was like, oh, I'm not used to being held accountable for what I say. I'm not used to people hanging on my every word. It's like, well, you are the sheriff. And I mean, why wouldn't they be hanging on your every word? You're the sheriff. You're the lead person in this investigation, or you were at the time. And it was the biggest case in America, for crying out loud. So of course people are going to be hanging on your every word.
Of this thing and just trying to get it out there. Here's what we're doing, and here's how we're progressing. They had 2 press conferences, and then all of a sudden those ended. And then he went off into this, you know, doing these individual interviews, which compounded the problem with him, and it becomes a huge distraction. And so now they're attacking the sheriff personally, politically, and so forth and so on, which in the big picture of the investigation, it distracts from it, and it doesn't help it move it it doesn't help it move further along, in my opinion. So the detectives and the agents that are working the case are on it. If anybody thinks that these guys have had, you know, if they're kicking back and just taking their time doing things, that's just not the case. They're fully vested in this. I would be, because I've been involved in these types of investigations, the number of man hours is insurmountable. And we see these things, these pieces of evidence that they're releasing, and of course everybody's got their commentary about it. And the reason they're releasing those particular pieces is because they want the public to be involved in this, because you never know. You're waiting for that phone call, right? So we're waiting for that phone call from the person who says, I know who that is in the video. And that gives them another lead to go in and follow up on. So, and we've watched the process of the DNA and the crime scene processing and that kind of a thing, of which there's been great criticism. I'm just saying that, look, even when the agents went back to the house, the FBI agents went back to the house after the scene had been processed, there's no reason to keep that scene open forever and ever. Amen. When they went back, and each time they went back, they have received a new piece of information or another piece of evidence that has said, well, let's go back and look at this particular lead that we're going to follow up on at the residence. So I understand what they've been doing from the perspective of, I've done these same things.
And by the way, folks, I got 5 more memberships to gift before the end of the month here. We're at 107 likes. I can either try to set a goal for tonight or set a goal for another night. Perhaps the goal for the night 150? Is that too many? And I'll gift 5 memberships?
I have gone back to scenes because there was something that I may have seen on a video later that took me back to get, let's just say I had a scene where I went back because I saw the suspect put his hand on a chair. We didn't know that until we saw the video. We'd already closed the scene. We'd been in there for hours and upon hours. We went back to it, found the chair, did a DNA swab on that particular chair. So again, we're seeing this thing play out in real time. And so I don't see anything particularly unusual going on here. I think all the stuff going on in the background, the sources that are putting out information, this and that, I think that's a discredit to the investigation. And I think that doesn't help. It distracts from it. And so I've read recently here where the much of the DNA evidence, which takes a long time to process. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's not, when I was in Houston, it was not uncommon for DNA processing to take 6 months to a year. So I don't see anything unusual happening here regarding, I know there was all this people getting their panties in a wad about, oh, they sent it to this private lab in Florida and blah, blah, blah. Look, that's who they had the contract with. That's who they've been dealing with for years. That was and this case still belongs to the Pima County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, so this guy's kind of defending, I guess, Nanos sending it to that other lab. But again, it's if you get your ego out of the way and you think the FBI's lab's going to be better and the FBI wants you to send it there, then why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just send it there?
So I've seen recently here where they have sent some DNA evidence. I don't know if that's some samples out of the Florida lab to the FBI. But then I've seen some discussion about a private lab being used that was on the front line of the serial killer in New Jersey, the Rex Heuermann, because they have a facility that can do some processing on DNA that maybe some other labs do not have. So, and that's what brought about the identification of that suspect. So here we are. So clamoring about it went to a private lab. Well, now it's gone to the FBI and everybody's all happy. Well, now they're talking about doing what? Sending it to a private lab to have some other processing done. So I think and once you get all this evidence accumulated, recovered,
what do we got here? Thank you very much, Sweet Caroline. Shadow and I say thank you. Come on, folks. If you're here, you obviously like being here. Hit the like button to show your gratitude for Jared's amazing content. It's the least we can do. Oh, thank you so much, Sweet Caroline. Shadow, thanks you very much, too. Remember, if we get to 150 likes, I'll gift the 5 memberships today, which I think is doable. It's doable. Because likes are free, after all. And I'll be inviting some more guests coming up moving forward as well. You can maybe expect some more recorded videos from me too. And maybe even some daytime streams occasionally. More on the narcissism topic, perhaps. So we got some big things coming up. Thank you again, Sweet Caroline. CC Moore said the Florida lab was a great choice. Well, I guess she likes them for whatever reason. I'm not sure why she would like them more than the FBI's lab. But maybe I would talk to her too. I should find out how to get a hold of her. That could be an interesting discussion.
Processing of it takes time, especially when you're talking about something as intricate as the DNA testing.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. And it's been in the headlines as well over the past couple of days quite a bit, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this episode, just to kind of answer and go through the headlines that we're seeing. And so later in this episode, the viewer is going to hear from a DNA expert who talks about that lab in question, talks about the FBI, and talks about whether or not this delayed the investigation at all. So that's a little bit later in this episode. Okay. But do you think, in your opinion, that DNA will solve this case?
Everybody wants to say that's the magic bullet, right? And it's just not. It will be a big part. It may be the part that gets them in the right direction to identifying a suspect. And then
So that's the question I have for you. I think it was Jane who said this. No, it was Julie. But why did CC Moore say the Florida lab was better? Just because that's who they have been familiar with? Is that what it was? And I think I have heard that. I have heard that argument too.
Other evidence that's been collected, of course, every affirmative link, it will be compiled. It will be a piling on of this evidence, which will bring about the identification of a suspect and hopefully a successful prosecution. But of course, initially here, the DNA, that's going to link somebody to that scene.
Let's hope. So I guess to follow up with this and button it up about just the sheriff and, people have a lot of opinions on what's going on and whether or not it's impacted the case. But do you think that there hasn't been as many updates or updates at all, really, because he doesn't want a distraction or because of the internal affairs problems, or maybe he just doesn't have information? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is trying to go back and close the barn door after the horse got out, right? And he's faded so much heat, and I don't have any. We can have our opinions about him politically and the bad optics and that kind of thing and the internal strife going on in the department. And I've seen some other people of note that have, he needs to be run out of there and all that good stuff. Well, you know what? In 2028, when he runs for re-election, the voters in Pima County will decide whether they want to run him out. Right now, clamoring about him, I think is distracting from Ms. Guthrie and this investigation. And I've seen other former Pima County deputies talking about him and this and that. And I don't, it's two separate topics in my view. If we're going to talk about this Guthrie investigation, let's talk about the investigation. What evidence that we know they have in terms of doing press releases and that kind of thing. That kind of got spoiled when the PIO was not allowed to do press conferences. That's what they're paid to do. They can get out there and they can take questions. They can show what we have. Here's where we are in the investigation without compromising any part of the investigation. So I think, so the response of the sheriff has been to just shut down everything. No communication. He's got so many irons in the fire. And I'm not taking a position on him either way. That's all their problem there in Pima County. But regarding the investigation, I think that the choice has been made that all the distraction is taking away from the focus of Ms. Guthrie and the investigation itself.
Okay, so that answers my question there of like they just don't want to distract.
My question would be for the people actually working the case, what does the day-to-day look like? Are you looking through video camera footage, videos from Nest and ring cams, traffic lights? Are you reaching out to people? Like, what does the day-to-day look like on a case like this? If you're one of the 4 detectives and a sergeant that's working with the FBI, what does your day look like? That's what I would be curious about.
And they just want to wait for a breakthrough possibly in the case. And public information officer, that's the PIO, that is the person that the reporters call and the person that is allowed to talk to the media. Sometimes a sworn officer, sometimes a civilian, but they share what they can without breaking the integrity of the case. So I call them daily.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When we're talking about the family, though, are they being updated? Do they know more than us?
I don't know that they know more than us, but I'm sure they're being updated. It was interesting when Savannah did her interview, that she spoke well of the investigation, of the detectives, the sheriff's office, and the efforts that they're making. So I would have no doubt that they are being updated as regularly as possible when they have something that is new. They may, I know in my when I was in an investigation similar to this, and we didn't know who the suspect was, and we did have some things on video and so forth and so on, and I was, if the family wasn't contacting me weekly, I was contacting them. And sometimes it may just be, I just wanted to contact you, let you know, here's what we are doing. We don't yet have any results. If we find something that comes back, boom, I will let you know. I have one case in particular that I made a promise to the family that the minute we find the right person who's done this, you will be the first one that I call. And we did. And we got this person identified.
Interesting way to spell Phil. F-I-L. Phil Waters. How about P-H-I-L? That's usually how you spell Phil, right?
Identified over 5 months later. And who did I call?
The family.
I called the person that I told them I would be contacting them the minute we had. And I'll never forget it. And it's a powerful moment. Called them on a Sunday. We just had the suspect in custody. And the minute when he answered the phone, I said, "Are you sitting down?" And he knew what I was about to tell him. So it's a very powerful moment. And that's what I'm praying for in this, that's what's going to happen here, because the family, before the media, before the public, before all the true crime people, the family has the right to know first that they have somebody in custody. So that's what I'm praying for that happens here.
Yeah, me too, especially given the unique nature that victim's daughter is a news anchor. I'm hoping that it's done correctly.
Now there's the rub there. Did you hear it before? He said, "Oh, you true crime people." Sort of like he has a little bit of a grudge against us true crime people. The family deserves to know, which I don't disagree with. But just the way he's saying, like, oh, the true crime people, like he doesn't like them. Hello there, Sikorsky. How are you? Oh, Autumn Elizabeth. Had to watch the Shohei Ohtanis of the world. Did they win? You know, Rob Reiner was a big Shohei Ohtani fan and Dodger fan, along with Jake Reiner. I like Maureen and Matt Murphy. The Triple M threat song bits, Matt Murphy and Maureen. Also, as you come in here, please remember to like the video. If we get to 150, I'll gift the other remaining 5 memberships I have to gift, which would be cool. I know Autumn Elizabeth followed me on Instagram, which is cool. Wizard of Radical Self-Respect on Instagram. Check me out over there.
And she doesn't hear about it when her co-anchor is reading it next to her or something horrible like that.
Right.
You know, so you've already answered where you feel we are in the investigation, your thoughts on it all, if we've stalled. You've talked about the DNA, which I'm going to have another expert talk about in a little bit. The other headlines going on right now is with the other evidence that we're really waiting for. So we're waiting on the DNA evidence, right? And then we're also waiting for, I don't know if it's going to be more video or if it's going to be just pictures from the back area cameras, right? They told us, because we didn't know we were going to get this video initially. First, they said that it wasn't hooked up, that there was no video. Then they said images. Then they released the video. So maybe there's going to be a situation like that in the backyard. But why is that taking so long, you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Matt, the forensic digital stuff is another time-consuming operation. I have myself sat and watched hours of video to try to find a 20-second shot, right? So there is no doubt in my mind they have more video than just what they've released. So they're going over that, and I know that when I've had cases like similar to this where we had video, I sent it many of them.
So that's interesting. He said he is sure that they have more video than they have released. Wouldn't that be interesting if they did? That would be another big case, right? That I mentioned before. Oh, the 911 call, releasing that would get more eyeballs on the case again. But if they also released more video footage of the perp, that would also get more eyeballs on the screen for sure. I would like them to do that. Shadow would like them to do that too. But yes, also remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and say hello to the flock of black sheep. I call them the Black Sheep Nation.
Those videos, the best videos that we had, to NASA, who did enhancement on the videos. And that takes time. So all of it's just not, it's not CSI, it's not NCIS, investigate. It's just not those television shows, right? You don't just hit a tab, hit a key on a keyboard, and boom, all of a sudden you've got the person, their picture, where they were born. It's just that it doesn't happen that way. So the digital evidence takes time again, because we don't know how much they have, for one thing. How much was stored in the cloud by Google with their Nest cameras and so forth and so on. So it's just another piece of the investigation that will take time to develop.
Is this guy working alone? Is he experienced? I haven't asked you personally. What's your take on this guy?
I'm not. That shot right there, where we're using a bush of some kind to try to cover the lens, that's not a real impressive move. That doesn't tell me that this is a particularly sophisticated crook. So I would say, and the getup that he's got on there, and I think it's been determined that most of it, if not all of it, was purchased at a Walmart or online on Walmart. It looks like he's been watching a lot of television, and they got the gloves and the whole bit, and and the mask and that. My only curiosity here is what's in the backpack, and it doesn't. I would have to say, just based on that, I think we're talking about one person, at least initially, at the scene. But obviously, Ms. Guthrie had to be moved. And my sense is that whoever is there on the site had to make a phone call.
So DD says, professional burglars use a bag you can buy that prevents phone contact with the tower, blocks it. That would be the bag I would buy as well in that case. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Or a text message or some sort of communication to get a person in a vehicle to pull up, because we know that the blood drops go up to the end of the driveway and then all of a sudden they're gone. So I would think there's got to be at least two people here involved. One who's providing transportation, and then the other one who may be actually in committing the act.
Yeah, I'm curious why we haven't heard more about the backpack or any of that. I kind of figured that we would hear more about it by now. And to your point, I thought we were going to get more images maybe from the front door, because like you're saying, I can't imagine that this is all we have.
Yeah.
But, maybe there's a reason why we don't have it. But at this point in time, I would think that any bit of evidence helps drum up more interest in the case. And the goal is to, you know, try to get someone to rat out the person that did this, right? Like get information, something.
Well, you know, and these rewards, one would think, I mean, they're at an amount now that I would think somebody would be looking for a payday. So that's interesting. But again, we don't know what they know. We don't know what the investigators know. And perhaps they have that. I think right now they're in a mode of keeping up.
This gave me a chuckle. Jared, get this. Phil Waters' full name is Millard Phil. Miller Lite Phil Waters II. Julie Bug, ask and you shall receive, Rooster. There she is. How adorable. Oh, duh. I'm showing my age. Now, IG. If I said IP, not an IP address, IG.
A lot of things close to the vest because of the things that have been released. And there has been, at least we don't know that there's been any kind of credible phone call made leading them to other evidence and that kind of a thing. So we saw that at the front end, right? We're detaining people, we're running search warrants and this and that. And that was primarily based on the, you know, thousands of phone calls they were getting. And so I think right now there may be a purposeful lull in the investigation, and it's giving them time to just hit the bricks and do some just down and dirty detective work without the distractions of the media and the sheriff and all this other stuff that's been spun around it. So again, what I'm prayerful of is that they've got something that they're hot on, and when that is ready to be released, then that's when it will happen. And so all the other stuff just becomes noise.
Yeah, you know,
It's funny. What was I going to say? Now, this guy, Matt Johnson, he has the exact opposite interview style of Nancy Grace and Megyn Kelly. He just lets the person go. Completely opposite.
do you think that, so you don't think that the guy was working alone on whatever level? And do you think that he was using some sort of a communication device? Would he have had his phone on? What questions do you have?
Well, that's a great question. So, it depends on how he was communicating. I know somebody popped up and said it looks like a handheld or a walkie-talkie. That's a strap on the, in my opinion, that's a strap on the backpack. But I think we could possibly think that the person's using a cell phone. They may be using some sort of a handheld device, but I don't see any evidence of that on this guy. If they are using a phone, it would probably be limited. It would be, I turn the phone on, you need to come up here with the car, and I turn the phone off. You may have a very limited use of the phone. Now, the other thing I would think they are doing is, we've got a time frame here, and I have done this myself. The FBI comes in and they'll do a dump on those cell site towers. And their analysts at the FBI will look at, and in my case, when I did the dump, there were literally over 100.
So, folks, we got about 27 minutes left in this to get 32 likes, and I'll gift those 5 memberships. So, time's a ticking. So, remember to like the video because they help me pay for Shadow the Night Owl's Hootie Snacks, as well as subscribing to the channel helps. And of course, super chats, super stickers, and becoming a channel member or gifting memberships, they all help too. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat, why don't you? Great group of folks in here. I know there's some people lurking out there. Come in and say hello.
1,000 phone calls in just this 1 hour period of time, and in just one tower. So, and it takes again, it takes time. I remember and this is the one I was telling you about that was a 5-month-long investigation. It was in the 5th month that the FBI, the special.
Oh, see this, Shadow? You have some other owls from Harper's Ferry that he's communicating with, Mike. Thank you for the super chat, Mike. Hi, everyone. I have a question for everyone. Was Porch Guy with video the same guy they showed us as a still shot of Porch Guy with no backpack guy? You know, I don't know if we ever got to the bottom of that. I know you were asking before about doing a digital AI comparison, and I know Jen didn't answer that question. I think they were the same person. I do think that. But I do think it was 2 separate days. January 11th and the night of the abduction. That's my personal opinion. And I do think they were the same person, though. Chat, what do you think? Do you think they both were the same person? The person from the still versus the person from the video? I think they were. But Shadow says hello to the owls in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, Mike, by the way. Thank you for the super chat.
Agent with the FBI that was doing the analysis on the cell site dumps came to my office and gave me the update. And he was very excited that he had brought the 100,000 phone calls down to 30,000. And I'm like, I was amazed, but still 30,000 phone calls to get down to one number made in that 1 hour period of time. So again, I would think they're doing that. And that's why you bring the FBI into what was reported as a kidnapping, because of those resources that they have that local authorities do not have. So I just think there's a lot of moving parts in this investigation that we are just not aware of, that the investigators, the agents, the detectives are ramping up.
Well, I hope so. And, I find that cell phone data very fascinating, especially because it was a big part of a lot of trials that I covered, like Karen Reed 1 and 2 and all of that. And really, it's the digital footprint nowadays that could crack the case. And I talked to an former FBI special agent that specializes in that sort of thing. If anyone wants to look at that episode, it's fascinating and what he predicts they're doing, which is what you echoed. But when we're talking about phone calls, how about the simple 911 call? How come that's not being released? Usually when I'm covering stories, it's released pretty early on.
Great question by Matt. I'd like to hear this 911 call too. But let's see what Phil Hold My Waters says.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would have to believe that there's something in an evidentiary way, is some sort is probative of some kind, in some way, or they're trying to use it to eliminate something. So that is interesting. But you know what? There's having been involved in these types of investigations, it's a matter of, as the detective in charge of the evidence, you're the one that's in charge of this investigation. Of course, you've got your partner working with you and then other people working around doing many different things, but there's always a lead that's in charge, and he's got to make investigative decisions. What do we release to the public? What do we not release to the public? What are we going to keep close to the vest? Because we got to remember that later on, when they do get a suspect, they bring him in for an interview, and we're hopeful that that person or persons will submit to an interview that they don't want to feed that person a bunch of information that they have. They want that person who they believe is the suspect, the right person who's done the wrong thing, to tell them what they have in evidence. So many times there are going to be certain things that are kept back because we don't want the general public to know, because the person out there that committed it is listening as well. And so we want them to tell us what we know that nobody else does except for them.
Yeah, and that helped out in a lot of cases, and I'm thinking of, I don't have the exact example, but like John Benet Ramsey, when you have these famous cases where people just want to be inserted in them for whatever reason. And the fake ransom notes, some of them are not real, if any. And, they just want to be included in it for some sick reason. But you're right, and FBI is able to say, no, you're not a part of it because you said this wrong or whatever, So that's perfect example there. Before my viewers get over to the DNA stuff, I wanted to get your take on another big headline right now. And this is Fox Digital video, but remember Brian Entin went up to the door as well, and he was showing all of the blood, and that's how we kind of learned about that. But one of the big headlines about it right now is not the fact that it's the blood, but maybe she was coughing up blood, and maybe she wasn't necessarily injured after a beating or something of that horrible nature. But what was your take on where this blood may come from?
Well, I think what happened was she was struck as she entered that doorway there, coming out the door. And maybe she was punched, or maybe she was hit with an object. She falls to her knees, maybe on her hands and knees even, as she falls, coughs as her head is close to the ground, and then maybe they scoop her from there and take her to the car. That's my thought. What do you think, Chad? Do you think that's plausible? Let's see what Phil has to say.
I have read. Everybody's got their opinion about the blood. I've read, the noted pathologist that's given his opinion about the blood. I can only speak to, and I've read where some other blood spatter experts, that kind of thing, have commented about it. I'm just going to speak from the perspective of a homicide cop that's made hundreds of scenes and have seen all manner of blood cast about, blood spatter, blood drops, transfer blood, that kind of a thing. And to me, it looks to me, these are drops. This is not spatter in the sense that we talk about a blow of some kind hitting the head, and we have blood that spatters across the wall, and then we can look at the type of velocity of the spatter itself and that kind of thing. These appear to me to be blood drops. Now, the question is, where are these blood drops coming from? In my opinion, they look to me to be a head wound of some kind. Because even if it's a minor laceration on the head bleeds. And I only know from personal experience because about 2 months ago, I tripped and fell and hit my head on a wood ammo box, Winchester ammo box, and split my head open. And
no,
I wasn't.
Glad you're okay, though.
Well, 6 stitches later, I'm all right. But when I stood up, I thought to myself, I wonder if I just busted my head open. And it didn't take 2 seconds. And all of a sudden, I'm holding my hand in front of me, and blood is dropping into my hand. So I just make the point that to me, they look like blood drops. And in my opinion, it looks like it would be a head wound of some kind. Now, I know she's 84 years old. The skin is very flaccid. I mean, she could have, it could have been a cut on the arm and produced the same kind of a blood drop. I understand that. But whoever's bringing her out of the house, they're either carrying her wherever the wound is. It's because the blood drops go out to into the driveway, right? So wherever the wound is coming from, whether it's an arm, whether it is a head wound, something.
I don't think they go all the way to the driveway, do they? I haven't heard that. I think I heard on the front step here, but don't they end? I think they end before the driveway. Like that's the end of them right here, these things. As far as I know, right? Am I wrong about that?
Something of that nature. The way they're carrying her is facilitating the nature of the blood drops as they're walking up the driveway. Now, how did she get that? course, anybody can speculate about that. She could have been struck across the head.
Now, Mace, the reason why I didn't think that was because when Brian Entin's dude came up there to the front door, I don't remember seeing blood until the front step. But maybe we can go back to that video to see if there's blood further down than that. Have a good night, Linda. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Shadow says good night too. But yeah, there definitely could be blood to the driveway. I just don't remember seeing it. And I do think there was a coffin there somewhere. That's why there's oxygenated blood with the rings.
With that pistol, she could have fallen down, for that matter, and hit her head or hit her arm on some other piece of furniture that caused the skin to tear and so forth. So the concern here is that there is a wound of some kind. Ms. Guthrie is hurt in some way that's causing the bleeding.
Come on.
Yeah, it's tragic, and I wish
that's not much of an insight, Phil. Come on. Of course she was. It's her blood, right? So of course she was injured somehow.
we knew more. And of course, we're hoping for the best. And what we do know about the front area there, what was finally disclosed, is that it's her DNA. So we know that. I'm not sure if any other DNA was detected, but we do know that other DNA sources is being detected from inside the home. And we just learned, including a hair. And you and I just talked about it. It's now gone to the FBI, and whether or not that goes to another lab that helped with the Lisk Long Island serial killer case and unmasking Rex Heuermann, that's yet to be determined as of the recording of this. But I'm going to bring in the DNA expert now, and then I'm going to continue to ask you questions on the back end.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Joining in the conversation, we have Susanna Ryan, forensic.
A new DNA expert. I thought he was going to bring on CC Moore, but now we have Susanna Ryan. Let's see if she has any different insights.
DNA consultant and laboratory director. First off, you're a big name in the world of genetic genealogy and forensics. Thank you for being here for our discussion about the Nancy Guthrie case.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So, you know, there's been big headlines this week, or at least we thought that there were big headlines, right? In terms of the DNA now, the FBI being involved with the testing, or at least consulting. Can you make sense of it for us? How do you understand it?
All right, Alice. Thank you, Alice, for this. Blood to driveway is my remembrance. Some drops were seen on rock/sand. I did not see those, so I'm surprised we haven't seen them. Which wasn't good to get DNA from. Maureen discussed it. Now, that very well could be. Brian's dude would have to slow it down, because I don't think anyone's even allowed to go there now, right? You can't walk up to the door. So they had that one chance, and I'm surprised they didn't do a better once over, because they saw the blood in the front steps. So I wonder why they didn't look for more, or to see where it ended, you know? Also, remember to like the video out there, folks. We got 15 minutes left. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Likes are free, and so is subscribing.
You know, first you have the FBI saying, oh, we wanted this hair. We have these, you know, advanced technologies. And then you have them clarifying, saying, no, this hair was collected originally, and this is stuff we've always had. We've always had this technology. So it's difficult to ascertain.
I think that a lot of us are confused, but the bottom line, before we get into some of the details with all of this and what we do know and what we don't, do you think DNA is going to be the thing that solves this case?
I would say either DNA or some sort of digital footprint.
So when we're talking about the latest headlines with this case, I'm just going to put it on the screen right here. So this is from the FBI. And this is Ben Williamson, the assistant director for public affairs with the FBI. He posted this on X, and I'm going to paraphrase. He's basically saying it's not new DNA. FBI asked to test the DNA 2 months ago. Same technology as always, but the sheriff sent it to a private lab. So you're in this world for us. Mm-hmm. Is this a good private lab that it was sent to? The DNA Labs International, as I understand it, in Florida. I know that they're a smaller lab. How do they fit in all this?
Frankly, the private lab has everything the FBI has and probably a little bit more. For example, they use the MVAC, which is a way to collect DNA. You know, that's something that I use in my lab as well. It's really good at collecting low-level DNA, trace DNA, you know, just kind of touch, contact DNA. The FBI doesn't use that in their laboratory. The only delay, and I would consider this probably a slight delay, is that private labs do not have direct access to upload profiles into CODIS, which is the Combined DNA Index System, which is our national DNA database.
Yeah, do you think that the FBI being involved now is it likely that, and I'm going to butcher the name here, is it Astria Forensics? Do you think that they're going to be shortlisted? They're the ones that helped with the Gilgo Beach mystery turned into the Rex Heuermann arrest. And that was also done through familial DNA, through genetic genealogy, through his daughter.
They may be, for sure. So I think it's Astrea, but you know, they are the pioneers in doing the rootless hair testing, doing what they call whole genome sequencing on rootless hairs. And they've done some amazing work.
How would you have approached the case, or how would you approach it now if you were involved?
I guess I would say the only thing that I've seen that was a little frustrating for me looking in from the outside is things like those flower or the plants that we know that the perpetrator picked up and held in front of the camera.
So we have 8 minutes here. We can check out this Tucson 857 thing for Mace. For all of us, really. Ugh. Shadow's going to need some likes to pay for his medical bills soon, too, if he keeps on falling from the perch. Not very good. Shadow doesn't have health insurance, you know.
Here first.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've done that.
Yeah. Why you guys?
Are you from here? No, I'm based in Phoenix. Oh, sorry.
All right, guys. We are on scene here. We do have investigators that have shown up. I'm going to go get that. Investigators are on the scene. Seen it here first. Investigators have arrived. Detectives are on the scene. Detectives have just arrived to the house. Maybe we'll get a shot of Savannah. Hopefully we get a break in this case today, guys.
Is this from 1 week ago, or this is way before 1 week ago, and he just uploaded it 1 week ago?
Been going on for too long. Nancy Guthrie's house. Detectives have arrived.
So, Mace, by the way, what exactly are we looking for here? Are we going to go see the blood on the front step?
12:15 p.m. All right, everybody. So the detectives have arrived. Sheriff, detectives, Pima County Sheriff.
While you're out there, please remember to like the video because likes are free. Spank that like button. Leave your DNA of choice in the like button. Subscribe to the channel while you're at it. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. Black Sheep Nation, I call them. Great group of folks. Very supportive, encouraging, eccentric. We've got a few comedians that headline at the Chuckle Hut.
This is now an active crime scene. They're knocking on the door right now. They're knocking.
Who do they expect to answer?
They're knocking on the door. Right now, they're knocking on the door.
Is this like day one?
They just knocked on the door for a reason. Nobody answered. No answer. How you guys doing? Just knocked on the door.
We need 27 more likes. I'll gift the 5 free memberships because we're at 123.
Excuse me.
Cacti is plural of cactus, not cactuses, cacti.
Right there, if you guys can see it. No, the cactus is in the way. But
No!
they're starting.
He said it wrong. Not cactuses, cacti.
Seeing it. They're going in.
That reminds me of the knock knock joke from Catch Me If You Can, where Forrest Gump's character, Tom Hanks' character, is like, knock knock. And he's like, go fuck yourself.
It's funny, they knocked at the door. Yeah. I was like, okay. They went in that way. I don't know if there's like a walkway. I was thinking the garage is right there. But we are the first ones here as far as the investigators really aren't even on the scene yet. Try to get out of everybody's shot.
This looks like it might be day one. And now those law enforcement people, they just trampled over the front step there. There's blood on that front step. And this is day one. If this is day one, it's like, is that really the protocol? I don't think it is. I think, didn't we listen to someone that said, no, you walk a path around the house, anything but trample over the front step where there's blood and DNA around, right? But any of those bastards could have dropped DNA there. So it's like, oh my God. Unbelievable. And it distracted me from Sweet Caroline Super Chat. Sweet Caroline, thank you so much. Who's dragging the chain? Hit the like button. Who is dragging the chain out there? Shadow wants to know too. We're 27 likes away from 150. Are we going to not reach the goal tonight or something? Thank you very much for the Super Chat, Sweet Caroline.
So there might be a door there, but looks like the investigators have made it into the house for the first time. Okay, so it looks like there's a gate right there that you can get to the backyard.
And again, yeah, someone definitely said, I don't know if it was Jen or Maureen. I think it was Maureen. But she said, yeah, they have their own beaten path. They would walk around the house so as to not contaminate the crime scene and the evidence. These guys just blumbled through like Barney Fife. Like blump, blop, blop, walk over the blood. What's this? What's this on my shoe? It's like John Goodman's character in Arachnophobia. Oh, I stepped on the spider.
Yeah, this is her house, Becca. We're right in front of her house. Detective just showed up. Based on this morning's coverage, it is an active crime scene now. Give you a little lay of the land here. So as you can see, if someone left here, you got Cactus. She's 84 years old. She's
Oh, Sweet Caroline. Rooster has a question. Thank you very much for this, Sweet Caroline. But let's see what Rooster's question is. Shadow says thank you as well. Ah, that's a very good question indeed. I wonder who hasn't hit the like button out there. We only have 25 to go. So some people out there haven't hit it. I wonder who they are. Hit one if you didn't hit the like button.
not been found walking around. And so there's only one thing that sticks out, and this is speculation that possibly she was kidnapped. There's no other reason why she would be missing. So as of right now, that's the clue. That's what I'm going with. That's my guess. Is now here's what we just don't understand is 84 years old, goes to church, just the sweetest lady from everybody has said. You guys know people in your life like this, just the sweetest lady, church, friends, beautiful daughter, successful daughter, and now she's missing. And so this is really suspicious, obviously, but where it even gets more suspicious is she can't even walk more than 50 feet at a time, has a walker, and she doesn't drive. So here we are. Thank you. This is the house. The detectives just showed up. They have made entry into the house. Right over here, you can see where the front door is. And it was interesting. I never didn't think they would do this, but they actually knocked at that front door. They didn't get a response. And so they came around here and they,
Something tells me knocking on the front door and walking over the blood isn't in the manual. That's not in the how to conduct the crime scene manual.
walked in here. I believe right here is the driveway garage. So right up here where that white car is. That's a good question. How is she supposed to get to church? That's what we don't know, is she didn't show up. So there's a good piece to the puzzle, as you heard on JLR this morning, a good piece to the puzzle. We don't know the details like that. The only thing that's been released is Sheriff Nanos has now claimed that this is a crime scene. Here's a lay of how the street looks. I mean, just a beautiful neighborhood, probably lots of retired folk. I mean, this is not anything that any neighbor would expect to happen, especially from an 84-year-old elderly, well known in the community. Obviously her daughter. So we're waiting to see if the detectives do come out here, but they just have made entry for the first time.
All right, so this has got to be like day one. Is this Sunday? Is this the Sunday of day one? It must be, right? And this is the detective's first contact. This is interesting. This is very interesting indeed.
Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, it's a quiet street. That's why I suspect that this was a kidnapping. There's no reason why Nancy Guthrie, who lives here, why she would be targeted. Was this random? Why would they randomly take an 84-year-old woman? They haven't did the person she left with,
I don't think it's Monday because they closed it down later this day and then they opened it again Monday or Tuesday, right? I don't think they've even closed it yet at this very moment. That's just my guess.
You know, Nancy, I mean, these are all the questions people are going to ask the detectives, because she obviously didn't leave here on her own. That white car was here already, so that's not actually a detective car. That white car actually was here when I got here. But we will walk it around here and give you a lay of the land. Now, the interesting thing is they do have, like I said, they do have a camera on the front door. So if you're coming up to Nancy's house, this is the road you would take right here. So as you can see, lots of desert. So
Look at this. It's like pre-Brian Entin on the scene, even.
If you tried to walk in the desert, you wouldn't get far. And then here's Nancy's house. Right here.
You could say there's tracks there, right? Now, did someone drive out already from the detectives, or is that from the people that did it? It certainly looks like a tire track, though, does it not? That looks like a tire track to me. It's just a matter of who left it.
So whoever came here most likely would not use this driveway right here, because that's like driveway for to go to the front door. If you live at this house, you most likely would go around. There's two ways to enter into this house. You can enter through this driveway right here, or up here a little bit right here. And if you go in through this way up here, that takes you to the garage. I don't know. I didn't see any cameras up there, but we are going to be signing off here in a minute.
I mean, that's the archway, so they very easily could have used this one, right? That's the archway where the Nest Cam footage is taken, so.
And we'll update if anything else comes through.
And that's what I'm saying also, Julie, right? It could be someone from law enforcement that drove that too. It's most important though, what was there when they first got there, right? And did you do the proper protocol when you first come to a crime scene? It doesn't seem like they did to me. And that's one of the questions I've had previously, right? I said, I wonder, do you trust local law enforcement and their inexperience, because there was no experienced members there? Do you trust them to have done it right? And I said, I have no reason to trust them that they would do it right at this point, knowing everything I know about the case, right? But that was a good suggestion, Mace. I like it.
Identification of that suspect. So, duration.
He's still on their front porch, and that's where we know he was standing. And again, because he had that flashlight in his mouth, there's a chance that saliva dripped. I mean, it's a small chance, but hey, let's collect it and look. So other than that, I can't really speak to, what was done or not done. Like I said, I don't think it's a problem to use a private lab. I mean, yes, maybe I'm biased because I'm a private lab director, but honestly, I've worked in public labs as well. And just knowing what this lab's capabilities was, there was no detriment.
How about that? Another vote for it doesn't matter that it was a private lab. Now, granted, she works or runs a private lab, so like she said, that might bias her a little bit. And on a side note, look at that scenic backdrop in her view there. I wonder if that's a real view or a screensaver. What do you think? And Susanna Ryan.
Sending it there.
I certainly enjoy your time and talking to you. Susanna Ryan, DNA consultant, lab director. How else can we get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, which is ryanforensicdna.com. And I have all my information there. I love talking about DNA. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help you out.
Well, hopefully the next time we chat, it'll be after the breakthrough that we've all been waiting for.
That'd be great. Yes.
Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we just heard from the DNA expert there, getting her opinion on all of this. And, we've already talked about your take on the blood on the porch. Do you think that Nancy was fatally injured? Do you think that she's alive? Could be?
No. I mean, I'll answer that question directly. The length of time, given her health concerns, given her age, given what we know that she suffered a wound of some kind, I have been from the beginning of the opinion that I am not convinced that she was taken out of the house alive. If she was on the downhill side of being her life taken. So I hate to say that, but it's the reality is that I think that was a body removal. I don't think that was a kidnapping. Or
the thing that makes me think it wasn't just a body removal is the cough blood, for one. And it seems like the evidence adds up with her getting hit right there. So I don't think she was killed in the house. Not to mention there was no evidence of a struggle in the house either. So that leads me to believe she wasn't dead yet. But when she was killed, if she was, which she most likely was probably shortly thereafter.
Or the other possibility is that it started out as one thing and then it ended up as another thing. So just for the sake of our discussion, let's say it started out as a burglary and then they got in there and what happened, and then it turned into either a body removal or possibly the person thought, well, look, we get her out of here, and then turn it into an abduction, a kidnapping. And I'm willing to say I'm wrong if it turns out that it was all a kidnapping from the very beginning. I'm not married to any particular theory, but I just having worked these types of cases, they don't turn out well when the circumstances begin like this one did. And so I think there's always hope, and you always tell the family, we don't want to give up hope and that kind of thing. But the reality at some point is going to set in, and I would be, I tell you, if it happens, it would be a miracle. And if Miss Guthrie is, by some fantastic means, is alive, and she's been cared for with her medical situation, that kind of thing, and she is alive. I mean, hallelujah! That would be amazing. So, but I just think I'm a guy that lets the evidence lead me where I need to be. And I just think in this particular case, the evidence is leading to they're looking for a recovery of Ms. Guthrie rather than
and we're all praying for some sort of a miracle here. But even Savannah Guthrie,
it's 99.9999% that it's just a recovery at this point. I mean, that's been true it's day 86. That's been true since like day 84.
who is former Court TV like
Day 84, since like day 3, I should say.
Myself, and has been on countless crime scenes. She changed her verbiage when she was talking about her plea to the abductors and whether or not the ransom notes are real, saying, we just need some sort of closure. We need her. So, meaning they need her for a funeral and to say goodbye and a send off and all of that. Do you think that she ever left Arizona? Do you think that she could be in Mexico?
I guess there's been some speculation of that. I will say this. Pima County covers 9,000 square miles. Much of it, if not most of it, is desert. And there are plenty of places right there at 9,000 square miles they can put a body. Or they can put parts of a body. So there's, I can't imagine whoever did this would go to, and I realize they're close to Mexico, that kind of thing, but this is a deal where you got to get rid of this as quickly as possible. Put it someplace where the likelihood of it being found is pretty remote. So I would be, again, I'll say I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but I would be very surprised if she was taken into the interior of Mexico.
And before I let you go, before we wrap up here, I just wanted to circle back with, I think that you're one of the first people that says that this wasn't, that I've talked to, a planned abduction, because, there's the casing, and I'm a lay person, I'm just like the regular viewer,
Right.
but you have all the experience, but, there was the casing we know of her house. And then with the doors being propped open in the back, I mean, to you, could that have been a planned robbery? And maybe they think, oh, she has a lot of money. Maybe there's a safe in the house because she's Savannah's mom, something like that instead?
Well, sure. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know the door being propped open, and that comes from Savannah herself, because I think it was her sister at the scene made some suggestion that the doors are propped open. But we know that, at least from the evidence that we're seeing, that Ms. Guthrie was taken out the front door. And that door was not propped open. And these doors are burglar doors. These are heavy steel burglar doors. If the ones on the back are similar to the one on the front. And when I heard her say, the sister said, well, we're here now and the doors are propped open, I don't know what context that's being said in. Is she seeing the doors propped open after law enforcement got there, EMS got there, people have gone in and out, and it was just more convenient to prop those doors open rather than going in and out and opening them and closing them? So we don't even know what the timeline is for the doors being propped open. The assumption was that whoever did this propped those doors open. And I'm not ready to buy that completely, because there's a lot of reasons why those doors could have been propped open and who propped them open. So to me, that's not terribly significant in the big picture of things. And the house being cased, I think, by a similar looking individual, if I remember correctly. So then we go back to my question is, why were they casing it? Well, if their plan was to burglarize the house, they would be casing it for that purpose. So, burglars are going to do that, not anticipating they're going to end up having to take a body out or get involved in what turns into an abduction. So the casing of the property, I think we got to put it in kind of context of what were they doing? I mean, what was the purpose of it? And I don't know, to me, it just seems more realistic that the purpose of the casing would be to burglarize the residence.
Everyone should send good vibes to Danielle and Leo too. But it's a shame. Definitely a shame. Shadow wishes his best as well, or sends his best.
Yeah, and hopefully we find out what's going to crack this case wide open. What are you listening for? You have a different ear for this sort of thing than I do, and maybe the viewer or the listener. I mean, you've investigated countless cases. So what is the word, or what is it that you're listening for, and you're like, oh, they got something?
The phone call. The
911 call?
No. The phone call from the person who has the information leading to the correct suspect. I think that's what will, and I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm telling you, that case I was telling you about that went on for 5 months, it was a phone call. And it was a phone call from a woman scorned. And I'll take a phone call from a woman scorned all day long. And so when I see this case and where we are now, I know some people have suggested that it may be a woman. I don't think so. I think this is a male. And so that's what I'm on this one. I'm thinking this is what will bust this thing open. Unless, of course, they get some DNA stuff back and this person is somehow entered into CODIS or entered into some, database somewhere that reveals and then I guess they can go the way of genealogical DNA, that kind of thing. So, But I think that's what will do this, the phone call.
I am hopeful like you, and I hope that we get answers. Savannah and her family get answers sooner than later. Phil Waters, former homicide detective, president, CEO, Kindred Spirits Investigation Security. How do we get a hold of you?
Well, you can call me. You go to my website, www.kindredspiritsinvestigations.com. You can call me 833-639-5747.
Well, there you go. And maybe
give them a call at 867-5309.
The person of interest or that person scorned will give you a call. And one final button-up note on that. People that do use the tip line, they are really anonymous, aren't they?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, we use Crime Stoppers a lot in Houston. And I know that we, the detectives, never had an anonymous caller tipster identified to us. And they are not identified. Even we have asked. They will not identify the tipster to us. And only if the tipster agrees to come forward to talk to us face to face, the detectives, is the only time you're ever going to find out who that person is. Everything is anonymous. The delivery of any kind of reward is anonymous. And I know there's people out there, all the Eeyores that think that, no, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. Well, I will tell you, I do not know of any, in 33 years in law enforcement in the Houston, Texas area, and in Houston, Texas, 23 years a homicide detective, I have not heard of one story of a tipster being compromised in a good tip, receiving the money and moving on. And if anybody ever gets compromised in that type of a scenario, it's because the tipster themselves could not keep their mouth shut.
Well, do you believe him? Do you believe that a tipster has never been caught? I don't know about that. That sounds like wishful thinking. But you never know. Do you think he's telling the truth about that? Has a tipster never gotten caught, and the only reason they got caught is if they opened their mouth? I don't know about that. Shadow is a little skeptical of that claim.
Well, I think that is the perfect PSA to end this case and this episode. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, thank you for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
Let's keep the Guthrie family in our thoughts and prayers. Hopefully, they get answers soon and Nancy can come home. The FBI is offering a $100,000 cash reward. Crime Stoppers also $102,000, if not more. And the Guthrie family, $1 million. Anyone with any information, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can remain anonymous. That's going to do it for this episode. Take care.
All right. Well, that's the end of that. And that's really the end of the show for the day. I think we're falling short of the likes, but I'll tell you what, there might be however many more likes after it ends because we are pretty close. Well, if you can sue a cactus, JLR is going to know. JLR is going to get a cactus. He'll be getting cactuses for Trump and then freaking bushes for Kamala. That's what JLR will do. He'll go to a cactus rally. Because remember, he was a Jew for Trump and a Muslim for Clinton. True story, by the way. True story. And like his life is like a movie. And if it wasn't so horrific as well at the same time, it would also be more funny. But yeah, he's they're gonna write a movie about him one day. I don't know if it's gonna be a happy ending or not, but they have enough footage to make a movie out of his life. Because it's like they say, sometimes fact is stranger than fiction. And JLR, he kind of proves that point. Remember back, we watched it, right? We watched that video from a few years ago. My jaw was on the floor. because I had no idea the extent of everything that was going on there in that background. I'd always thought, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't look into it. But then we watched that video together, chat. You all remember. Holy mackerel. Shadow was still an egg at that point, and he still couldn't believe it. When he was born, one of the first things Shadow asked me was, "Can you believe what that guy JLR did?" I said, "No, Shadow. I cannot believe what JLR did and got away with it too." That's what I heard. You know what? I haven't heard much about his thing recently, user. But it's probably coming. I don't know. I don't know if Magnolia dropped charges or something. I don't know. I haven't seen any updates. You know it, Sweet Caroline. Oh, he's chasing tornadoes like Twister? That's what he's doing now, Mace? Chasing storms like he's the Twister dude? With Jodie Foster and the other dude? Good. A solid 90s flick, Twister. Solid. Not amazing, but solid, right? The 90s had a lot of solid movies. Some were pretty amazing too, by the way. Hurricane Chaser added to the resume. We have a meteorologist called Hurricane Schwartz around here. Interesting, chasing storms. Has he chased Bigfoot? I bet you he's probably chased some Bigfoot, right? Why not? He chased Loch Ness Monster. Chase Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, the Chupacabra in the X-Files. Helen Hunt. Oh, excuse me. That's like her lookalike, Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt was in Castaway, right? Duh, Jared. I haven't seen Twister for a long time. Rooster knows about the Chupacabra. He known for a lot of the border stuff. All right, Sweet Caroline, Shadow and I thank you for all the support and the encouragement to help get people to like the video. While you're still here, like the video, for crying out loud. This video should get to 150. And if it does, I'll gift the memberships during the next live. If it does. You can look for some Bigfoot droppings. You're very welcome, Teresa. I haven't seen Twister for a long time. I actually haven't watched very many movies for a long time. I want to watch the Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix. I've heard good things about that one. 13? We should come on, chat then. Black Sheep Nation. 149. There has to be 13 of you that didn't like the video. And I demand, Shadow demands, not me. Shadow demands that you like it. No crying out loud either. There's no crying in Twister. There is no crying in Twister, and there's no crying in baseball. Blame it on the rain, Songbits. Shadow doesn't like being blamed. You got it, Gloria. Gloria. I didn't even realize there was such a thing as Twister 2. Holy mackerel. I wouldn't think so. Most of these remakes are not nearly as good. Don't touch it. Don't touch Twister. It'd be like trying to make a Gladiator 2. It's like, don't do it. Didn't they try to do it, though? They did try to make a Gladiator 2. I know old school movies. I know old school movies and old school music. I'm not as up to date on new things. Unless it's The Godfather Part 2. And Indiana Jones 1 and 3 were pretty good too, by the way. Indiana Jones 3 might be better than Indiana Jones 1. Raiders of the Lost Ark is another good, solid film. But the third one with Sean Connery and Junior, I like that one. Shadow is eyeballing people because someone said too many Hootie snacks. No such thing. He knows that I have his best interest in mind. Because he knows what's in his best interest is in my best interest. And what's in my best interest is in his best interest. That's what he knows. Because Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage in The Rock. I did not see that, Dana. That's another one I have to watch out for. I wouldn't even want to imagine that, D. The new Roadhouse. Get out of here with that. Hollywood's become lazy in their thinking. No, he is not, user. All you have to do is perk him up a little bit and make him more wide-eyed. What kind of movie do you want to try and watch tonight in bed, Jared? Up. And Mr. Fredrickson. Julie Bug, did you tell all of your friends to like the video that stumbled upon you naked in your room or in your living room? You better have. A tiki hut. I remember the owl cam. We watched some of the owl cam. Mike has an owl cam in Harper's Ferry. All right. But all right, folks. It's about time to rock and roll. Shadow and I are going to say goodnight for the evening. I do trust this video will get to 150 likes. It's only 9 away. So it should get there. I mean, of the 153 people here, did 9 of you not like the video? And then you get 5 memberships. 5 memberships, Saw and Bits, right? And User, and Dana, and Julie, and D, and D, DD, and D, Julie. Like we have a show, not Ed, and Eddie. It's Jules, Julie, and Julie Bug. Jules, Julie, and Julie Bug. Ed, and Eddie. Thank you, Julie Bug. Till next time. Farewell to the Rooster as well. And to the Kev. And to the Tim. And to the Mace. And thank you for the mods, of course, as well. Autumn. Thank you to Saw and Bits and Miss Kim for modding. Livin. Absent again. Livin. Livin is no longer living her best life. You have a great night, Ruth. Thanks for being here, too. We'll be back again tomorrow night, everybody. Thank you again for all of your support. Tell a friend. Tell a friend that needs some black sheep in their lives. And again, send good vibes for Danielle, too. If Leo is not going to make it, that's sad. You have a great night, Jackie. Thanks for being here as well. And thanks for commenting on that other comment in that other video to support that person. That was kind of you all, too. And Autumn Elizabeth, you have a great night as well. All right, folks. Over and out.